we are living in the world where we're going to get a best of 5 of these same 2 teams. If this doesn't get you excited about this matchup, I don't know what will.
我们跟 SKT 比的话，我们常在前期跑团战。
There's the kick, Black lands the Q at the same time, Flash in, and Faker's dead one more time.
SKT, the longer the tournament goes on, the better they get throughout history.
SKT, they pull out the miracle fight. They're looking like gods.
RNG가 조별 예선에서 1등으로 진출했기 때문에 지금 가장 강한 팀이라고 생각해서 이번 4강전이 굉장히 기대되는 것 같아요.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2016 Mid-Season Invitational Knockout Stage. Of the 6 teams that entered Shanghai's Oriental Sports Center 1 week ago, just 4 remain in the pursuit of the MSI Championship. As the pressure ramped up earlier today, we got to look at fans and cosplayers who are more than hyped for the semis.
It's a pirate.
Timo, a pirate, that would be a gameplay, and Zed making his appearance. Faker.
That's
maybe he'll play. I would love to see, exactly. I'd love to see him play it maybe in this game. The rest of SKT, they're getting ready as MLXG leads the way for RNG as they make their way to the stage today. We've got a lot to cover. So before we get on the Rift, we're going to send it downstairs to the LPL's Rendong and meet today's semifinalists.
欢迎来到上海。您现在正在收看的是2016英雄联盟季中冠军赛。
that all these players are competing for here at MSI. A beautiful one at that.
Also getting a glimpse of the crowd right now. If you can even hear me at this point, they're loud. These guys are loud.
Yeah, the winning team is going to get to hold on to that trophy for a whole year.
And there it is, SKT, the first of our contenders in this semifinal series here.
Tough tournament so far for SKT, but fantastic last game they played. And coming into this semifinal, definitely not looking like an underdog.
And it's not something unexpected for the team. They've had a tough year as well. They've had to work for everything that they've been able to earn.
Each of these individuals, though, no strangers to the international stage, except for maybe Blank would be the only one that you can point to. So, with no shortage of experience on the international stage and in best of 5s with their coach Koma leading the charge, you know they're walking into this day quite confident, to say the least.
Yeah, expecting a lot of growth here from SKT. Some clear issues last week. The Koma and the team should have worked.
And then, of course, as you can hear from the crowd, the hometown favorites here in RNG as they're introduced, dominating the group stage.
A surprise, but at the same time have been consistent in the way they're playing, have honestly been the best team if you look at the first games we saw at this tournament.
Consistently great individual performances from these guys. 4 out of the 5 of our all-tournament team consisted of RNG players.
This has to feel honestly fantastic. You get that amount of reaction.
Yeah.
Even as quote-unquote foreign players, Looper and Mata coming into China, I think completely embraced by this crowd now.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting drowned out by the noise level in this arena.
One of the best parts of MSI, the regionalism. You can feel it extremely strong here in the crowd.
Well, there they are. One massive shot of our entire arena here. Everyone very, very excited to get this series underway. Of course, we have to give the players some time to get ready, which means that we get some time to discuss. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson, here to cover today's semifinal bout with the help of Mitch Crepo Vorspools, Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler, and Martin DeFicio Lunga. Gentlemen, we've made it to the second week of MSI, the knockout stage. How's everyone feeling?
Good, so far.
So excited. I feel like I never left.
Oh, hey, who would have thought? All right, well, we've had some time to digest the group stages, and so as we turn towards the bracket, today's semifinal is the first of 2 best-of-5s that will determine our MSI finalists. Each match is single elimination, so there's no second chances, but of course, you do have those 5 games to play.
Except those 5 games.
Except for those 5 games, right? Of course.
Second, third, fourth.
But as we zero in on this specific matchup between RNG and SKT, I want to talk about side choice because you're given as the first seed, RNG gets to choose 1, 3, 5, SKT gets to choose 2, 4. We've had an interesting result here because of that.
Yeah, so RNG picked blue side in all their games, and SKT picked red side in all their games. So we have basically 5 games with RNG on blue side. And I think it makes a lot of sense for both teams. SKT want to be red side to get a last pick for Faker. And RNG have a few key picks they can first pick, like an Alistar, but also they have a jungler in MLXG who's fine trading picks. So I actually think it makes a lot of sense for both teams.
It makes me so excited that hopefully we will be able to see more champions in the mid lane now, and we'll get to see Faker flex his champion pool, because this was one of the biggest stories for me coming in, was looking forward to see what he's going to pull out versus these top tier mid laners.
You just want Vel'Koz, that's all.
I want something, Vel'Koz, Cassiopeia, anything, because this mid lane matchup is the creme de la creme, basically. Yep. Xiaohu versus Faker should be exciting.
Definitely, and just the evolution of Pick and Mansu. I really like series where it hopefully goes all the way to Game 5, but teams can't solve their issues in Pick Ban by simply switching sides and getting more liberty. So generally, the blue side team has a bigger advantage in terms of flexibility. So if RNG put on the pressure and lock in some must bans, then SKT may get into trouble later on.
I mean, the thing about blue side in the current meta is on blue side you can target ban more, because you generally actually want a lot of the strong picks to be open so you can get in first rotation, and then in your second rotation as well you can pick a few of the very, very strong picks. So it's either you leave 1 open or you leave 5. And that means you can like target out Wolf as an example, maybe target out Faker if you want to hit him in the mid lane, where SKT is more looking at the generic piece, if it makes sense, like Nidalee and Maokai and so.
This is actually a fairly scary thing when you're playing against RNG, because they do have so many players. Like if you just look at one, MLXG for example, you have to be so scared. Nobody else can give Nidalee over to this guy. There are bans that you kind of have to do versus the team, just looking at individual players. And so it makes it a bit scary if you want to play a certain strategy and you want to go for that flexibility that Krepo's talking about.
Yeah, definitely interested to see how especially mid lane picks come out. Like, is the Azir going to be picked as always, on second rotation blue side? Are we going to eventually get to a scenario where Ryze is first pick worthy because the big 3 mid laners, LeBlanc, Ryze, and Azir out there, Azir maybe off the table, Ryze early picked, not the greatest matchup for LeBlanc, and then SKT, they only have shown true success with really big team fighting come so far towards the later stages of the group stages. So very interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah, with the few days that they had off, I'm sure both support staffs have put plenty of time and energy into figuring out how they're going to attack this pick and ban phase. As the tournament continues, though, keep showing off those regional summoner icons in-game. In addition to supporting your team here at MSI, by taking over our stage, you'll be fighting with the rest of your region for a party IP weekend. As you can see here, Turkey has surged ahead of the pack with Europe and Korea rounding out the top 3. So there's still time to make moves. Make sure you lock in those summoner icons. Both of today's teams reached the MSI bracket stage after defying expectations, though, in last week's round robin. One, in a great way. The other, unfortunately, taking a bit of a dip.
You mentioned expectations. We have to start with SKT, I feel like, because coming in, they were unanimously considered #1 team.
Yep.
It was just about how many games they were going to lose, on their way to #1, not if they would get to #1.
And I mean, again, I don't think you could actually make a proper prediction for them not being #1 if you look at like a power ranking, because they were just that dominant. If you look at the playoff run they had in Korea, and obviously Korea were considered the best region, but RNG on the other hand, question marks for sure coming in. Also because a lot of people actually considered EDG to be the best team in China before this tournament. They could still be, we actually haven't seen them play here, but RNG just had too many ups and downs, I feel like, not strong enough games even when they were winning.
Yeah, and it turned out to be a fallacy of, people who are ranking SKT so highly. part of it was because everyone thought that the problems SKT showed earlier in their season had been solved.
Yeah.
It was like, you know what? They played great up to the finals, and all the problems are gone. They're not gone.
They're not
They
gone.
resurfaced here.
And at the same time, we look at RNG, they have clear weaknesses in their style. Nobody's going to call RNG a perfect team.
No.
We thought once you get to the international stage, they will get exploited. Macro-wise, 1-3-1. Didn't happen this tournament. They kept on fighting, and showed up apparently that they're so much better than everybody else at team fights. They can simply just play for that one goal and make it work.
And it was in the two matchups that these teams had throughout the group stages that we kind of got a glimpse at some of the strengths and weaknesses of both sides. And the fact that each team took a game off the other is what makes this matchup very interesting.
Yeah, and I think just to also jump a bit quickly back to Kreppel's point here, the thing about RNG, and the reason these games were so close is because RNG is so extreme in what they do well and in what they do poorly. Because we look at team fighting, we look at individual skill, and we give them almost a 10 out of 10 in everything. But then we look at the vision, we look at the macro play, we look at some of these decisions they make as a team, like lack of game plan in the late game, and we have to take that much, much lower and give like a 4 out of 5 or something like that, where SKT is a more well-rounded team who can match along the way on a lot of the points. So when RNG gets that early lead, yes, they might be better, but if they don't have the right composition or if they don't know how to push the advantage, we get these long games, then suddenly it's a 50-50 late game.
I think those gold graphs, very intriguing just because it shows the percentage of time that RNG was able to hold a lead against SKT. I mean, SKT is still getting a win in the second game, but in terms of their domination early and their ability to create a lead is rather fantastic.
Definitely agree. And they're one of the few teams that have been able to play really aggressively in the early game and utilize things like level 2 ganks coming from the jungle. This is something I wanted to highlight. Obviously I'm a little biased looking at the junglers, but I feel like this is a big advantage for RNG. And MLXG's willingness to cheese in a competitive environment is a huge advantage for these guys. And the thing is, he doesn't have to go for those level 2 ganks. He doesn't have to, throw people off like blank. He can play standard as well. It's just something that can earn you an advantage, in a best of 5, snag you an extra game in that best of 5 and get you up in one of those. I feel like Blank specifically is a player that not only do the RNG players know really well, but he does not play well when things are not going according to the standard early game plan. He plays by the book, and MLG will take advantage of that.
I definitely agree it was a big advantage if we look at the BO1s they played before when you hadn't played against RNG at all, but now when you had 4-5 days to prepare, you faced RNG twice if you're SKT. I feel like a lot of those, should we say, not by the book plays, like ganking 3 minutes Cheese. As an example. Cheese, it's a smart move. It's like in that case, you have now seen it. You adapt the way you play and the way you ward level 1.
Let me get Kreppel's point in, and then I'll come back to you, Kobe, to close it out.
Yeah, just the beauty of that is, though, Jahu's synergy with MLXG goes back to all these weeks. So even if it doesn't go with the standard or the non-standard ganks, I still think they can find an opening. Because even if we go back to week 1 and 2 of the LPL, it was just absolutely beautiful watching them dismantle some super strong mid laners against them. I saw them play against Easy Hoon once and just completely destroy him. They had these combos, Lissandra, Lee Sin, LeBlanc, Lee Sin, where they just would both dash in aggressively and force open the mid lane. And Faker will need to deal with it because he's been ganked and even put on tilt numerous occasions so far in this tournament, something we haven't seen before.
Yeah, and I feel like I definitely agree with the sentiment behind your point here, Deficio, but you can't just say, hey, we're not going to get cheese at level 2 this game, because there are different ways to do it. And the thing is, everybody has that frustration, right? Whenever you're in a game and, someone comes up behind you at a camp level 2 and you're just like, that's not fair. You're just like, I'm just not going to get cheese next time, right? You either die to the ganks and complain about how they're not fair, or how, invading the jungle early like that is not fair, and you die to them over and over, or you live long enough to join them and adapt to it.
You either play long enough or you see yourself become a cheeser.
Exactly.
But it's a mindset thing, right? Because when SKT have played RNG now in the 2 games we have seen, they tried to dance in the early game. They tried to match some of the early aggression we saw. Yeah. They didn't realize, maybe I should actually ward at 2:30 instead of at 3 minutes as an example. So some of these ganks could happen. I think that mindset will change, and they will play a lot more safe in the early game and not risk it being as obvious as it was before you could gank the mid lane.
Now, so let's talk about the mid lane. One of the places that might be the focus of some of that early pressure from RNG. Faker versus Xiaohu. Xiaohu looking like a rock star in this tournament. Faker looking minorly off kilter.
Yeah, it's been one of the really interesting points. As we always keep returning to it and we keep bringing it up, But at this point, I feel like maybe, since Faker has done so much, he's conquered pretty much all of League of Legends, done almost everything you can do in this, except get an MSI trophy. And at this point, you have to start to wonder, this guy is taking armor pen runes on Azir. He's making these mistakes that we don't normally see from him. Extending a lot is something he's kind of done before, but more mistakes than we would expect to see from a player of his caliber. And it brings up the question of, is this specific tournament now a mental blocker for Faker? How will he recover? Everyone expects, when the pressure's on, Faker, he's a god. He will come back. He will perform.
I mean, if you forgot the skill is ultimate on LeBlanc, and it's always been Faker's LeBlanc, Faker's LeBlanc. But
exactly.
And then if you look at Jahu,
yeah, but that's a mistake, right? That's
that's the exact point.
That's a mistake. Taking the wrong runes is something you're like, oh, I'm never going to do that again.
I know. I definitely agree at that point. That is a mistake, and then that happens. He's definitely not played as well as we expected, but it's not. I don't think he goes into the tournament being, oh, this is MSI. I'm a bit nervous. I don't really know what to do before the tournament
that's the thing about
itself.
Them. You never go into it thinking, this is my
exactly. But
if
we look at Faker itself, I mean, he's getting camped. In Korea, he will play over-aggressive as well.
And he may continue to get camped.
But in Korea, a lot of the junglers would not punish him in the early game like a guy like MLXG or a guy like KHA has been doing here. So I think for him, it's been a lot about adapting to how does other regions play. Not everyone is playing the Korean style.
Right.
And it's taken some time, and that's obviously given him in a few bad games, and he's probably, been tilted from it. But now, again, he's had more time to adapt to it. We assume he will be able to adapt.
I do want to...
And it's not all Faker either, because the junglers are a big part of it.
Right.
Blank,
exactly.
Blank has had a lot of variance in his play, and it's something that everyone's been looking at. They actually said, Koma said, Bengi could see play at any time, which I don't think anybody really believes.
He may see some play, man. The nosebleeds or the left side stage. Maybe he gets invited to the lounge to watch it backstage. I think that's about the only play he will see.
It's pretty much sold out. He might not have too many places to sit. I do want to push us forward, though. We talked about the junglers visiting, them being wild cards in this, but I want to talk about another player who has also been known to visit the mid lane or make a play, Mata.
Let's talk about Mata and his vision. More of all, he used to be the god of vision, and he's made a shift in style right now because side stones right now, you only have 3 stacks. You put some wards, then generally you want to base to set up the next layer of vision. We actually have a replay highlight here. So Mata comes out of base. This is like 21 minutes in the game. Right at this moment, RNG have double teleport advantage over their opponents that they can use to play the map. Most teams, you would assume, would go for a 1-3-1, get a numbers advantage, TP in, win the fight. These 3 wards that Mata just placed, and MLXZ right there, all next to mid lane and teleport locations, they will eventually time out. RNG will spend so much time on the map not getting any illicit advantage that these wards will disappear. They don't move up their pink wards line, they don't go for deeper vision, they only have these access wards, shallow wards, call them what you want. And eventually, it ends up in a team fight after they take the tower. They fight for Dragon with no vision. RNG is the best team at fighting with the vision, but they make mistakes in team fights where they don't have overview. And Mata kept canceling his bases over and over. And we have to wonder, is this a choice? And if it is it the right choice?
I mean, the way we like to look at League of Legends, normally we would say it's not the right choice. It's not something a lot of our supports are doing. What Mata is here, like staying on the map for too long. But the reason also we highlight this is because we often talk about this RNG team not 100% understanding how to play the map, not 100% understanding how to execute a game plan. And this basically is just showing it. Because when you start having that too passive warding basically just in the river, you can never push your lanes up there. Yep. Because then you're blind. You're walking blind in, you get ganked, it's hard for you to react in time. And then it means the team instead is just trying to bait around Baron. And the reason that they struggle against SKT with closing out the games was because SKT said, okay, you can't push anywhere. You can only run 5-on-5 because you have no proper vision. So we will just hit 5-on-5 and we can stall you at Baron for like 10, 15 minutes and the game goes longer and longer and then you get 5 items and then it's a 50-50 team fight in the end. That's something RNG needs to fix if they want to win 3 games here.
Yeah, it definitely highlights some of their mid-game problems. Perhaps it's a choice. It is hard to doubt somebody as smart as a player as Mata with the overview, but we have to call it out because there's so much room for opportunity and RNG seem unwillingly to take it. They rely so much on their grouping and relying on somebody overstepping their bounds that if SKT do play the slow game and they realize this and they just avoid that heavily centered area of the map that's warded but then just make use of side lanes with deeper vision, they can stall out perfectly fine and actually get that slower style that they prefer.
Yeah, and I feel like I have to go to bat for RNG now because you guys are highlighting this is a clear weakness that we've been looking at all tournament long here. However, using your point that you're talking about before where RNG, they're very low, maybe a 4 something on macro and extremely high, almost a 10 on individual play and execution, whereas SKT maybe 8s across the board. I feel like it is much easier for RNG to make a small improvement in the vision game that will have much bigger rewards than it is for SKT to try and bump up from an 8 to a 9, going that, especially something like individual play where you're just like giving Korean advice to the Korean team, hey,
play more.
Don't die there, play better. Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, before we get into game one, it's time to throw all the cards on the table. Down the line, gentlemen, who are you calling this series for? Mitch, starting with you.
Under the assumption that SKT highlighted some of their flaws, which I think are easier to fix than RNG's, because I think RNG's flaws are very centric to their gameplay, and you actually won't get them out of them. I think SKT is going to take the series. I mean, if you got to put a number in 3-1, because 3-2 predictions are lame, so 3-1 SKT.
Well, also to go on top of that, I feel like because the side selection is blue side every time for RNG, we are going to maybe have a more snowball-y 1-3 either way or something like that. So being more bold in your game prediction, I commend you, Crepo.
All right.
Like I said, though, I think I am going to have to go to bat for RNG. We are seeing the same mistakes from them, but we're just seeing them from different angles. And I feel like RNG, they are a self-aware team. We can see this in their improvements from IEM, where they improved a lot in their lane swaps. Even though their lane swaps are still not great, the small improvement that they made a tremendous difference for them. So I think it is going to be RNG, and I am also going to go 3-1, but in favor of RNG.
All right, well, that splits us 1-1 here to Fischio. You're the tiebreak.
Yeah, I think, Kobe, your point with RNG fixing their mistakes, I think they've had basically an entire split now to work on the vision, how to close out games. They haven't been able to fix it. I actually think the communication problems make it very hard because in-game you need to talk a lot. Where do we move? Where do we go?
Fair.
And I think they will struggle because of it. I think SKT was a lot of poor individual play, like overextending, playing too aggressive, which is something you can go back and look at and talk about and then play more passive. So I think SKT is going to take it. I'm going to join the 3-1 because I don't want to go for the 3-0 just yet, but I think SKT is the favorite in this one. But we will get a lot of close games where it comes down to 1 or 2 big team fights.
One tiny response to that, though.
Yeah, of course.
I feel like SKT's problems, you say RNG have had the same ones all year long. SKT's are the same ones from all year long that are now re-emerging that we thought had been solved. Incorporating blank has been a huge issue for them for a long time.
Sure.
As well, I would point out Duke's teleports.
People blame the poor blank, though, quite a lot, when actually it's the bot lane. When they're playing against double TP, it's like randomly going aggressive and getting TP.
You're hurting SKT here. You said there's more errors.
They will fix it. That should be fixed over 4 days.
Fischio's working against himself.
No. Because that's what I think it's going to be fixed over 4 days.
Sometimes you just need to put your disagree hat on.
Also, the amount of back and forth we're having is indicative of how good this game is going to be, how good this series is going to be. That's why we're so excited.
Best BO5 incoming.
That's why we're so excited for this series.
And if the group stage is indicative of anything, it will deliver. So as the teams make their final adjustments on stage, let's take a look at the hometown team's climb from humble beginnings to the international stage.
And from the LPL, you have Royal Never Give Up, the home crowd team right now.
중국인 신예들로 구성된 팀이었고 그 당시에도 굉장히 패기 넘치고 강력한 팀이었지만 약간 정확한 승리를 향한 목표를 모르는 팀 같았어요. 그리고 현재는 와타와 루퍼가 합류했고 그 이후로는 확실한 게임을 이기기 위한 방법을 알고 플레이하는 팀이 된 것 같아요.
They're going to look for a little bit more, but Wolf picks up Baker. Monty gets a knockback. They're going for Bang. He's gone. Woosh gets it. He's exhausted, though. And a trade kill comes in. Baker's gone. Woosh has 2. He's still alive. Another RNG takes it. The full house for Royal.
虽然说我们在联赛中赢的比较多，但是就是没有完全那种压倒性的力量，所以说可能不太被人看好吧。
当时是没有想到的。因为现在的成绩是由我们一步步努力然后进步得来的。
我的天，这一波是没有位移的，一套打上去，一个烟雾弹给上 ，Q 打到2段，又是一个人头，打出雷霆，直接收掉。
当初打的话就没有想过这么多，就每天就打排位嘛，提升自己的实力，然后就一步一步来，能走到今天也挺不容易的。在一个团队里嘛，如果有实力特别强的人的话，然后相对于就有些人实力差距比较大嘛，然后就会特别有压力，然后就会更加努力的去训练，所以到现在每个队员实力都在一直往上升。
중국 선수들이 부족한 점이 많았는데 이번 MSI 대회에서는 평소 실력보다 더 잘해주는 것 같고 계속 더 잘해줘야지 SKT 이길 수 있을 것 같아요.
个人能力还好吧，关键就是마타教了我们很多东西。
물론 제가 좀 머리를 좀 많이 쓰고 말을 많이 하는 건 사실이지만 그렇다고 제가 다 하는 것도 아니고 저는 오히려 다른 선수들이 저처럼 말할 수 있게 도와주는 역할을 하는 것 같아요.
3级抓他的话可以闪现挡他E的。
Maybe until only 3 maybe 타 니파운드 판돈 갱크知道吗上过 Maybe until 3
OK
我这3个吃中gank，
闪现把他E挡了，他基本就死了。
别别跳3级
帮你
미드 베이스
没上
한 선수가 잘하는 게 아니고 5명이 그러니까 나머지 4명 선수가 잘 도와줬기 때문에 그 한 명 선수도 잘해준다고 생각해요.
之前一直没机会展现出来，因为 IM 那次就队员压力比较大嘛，所以没发挥好。然后这次春季赛夺冠有了机会就进入 MSI， 所以就队员都特别想发挥自己，然后所以就打得比较好。
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the cast here. I am David Freaktilly. With me is Joshua Jat Leesman, and from the English coverage of the Chinese LPL, Jake Spawn Tiberi, our resident expert here for this matchup. And it is going to be a fun one, a best of 5 between the team that ended up getting the #1 seed in the playoffs, China's Royal Never Give Up, and the surprise #4 team, Korea's SK Telecom T1.
Yeah, and I love the way that Royal were just speaking about their team. You know, it's not the fact that Mata has taught them anything. It's the fact that they're exceeding their individual skill, that everyone came into this and started pushing each other because of disappointing international results from not only this Royal side, but the whole of China in the last domestic year. So I just think that it's incredibly interesting to see how the mindset has kind of swapped. And they're treating themselves like the underdog now and want to really take that next step.
Yeah, and now we're into the pick and ban. Obviously, the 2 games that they had during the group stage were incredibly long and incredibly close. And we spent over an hour trying to figure out the picks and ban strategies from both of these 2 teams. Already we're seeing a Maokai and an Alistair ban, which seems very strange because we had these as the 2 highest priority for RNG to first pick, so we actually don't know what's going to happen at this point.
And I kind of think that means they don't think there will be a jungle pinch coming out, which is what we expected out of SKT, so maybe look for that Nidalee to be the pickup that Lupa does grab for his jungler there in MLXG.
Exactly, but what we actually have is a top lane target ban. Maokai, Echo, and Poppy have pretty much been the 3 top laners that these guys have played throughout this entire event. In fact, they've only played those 3, so we will see a new top laner for these teams in this matchup guaranteed.
Would you see a first pick Poppy come out is the thing. There's the Rise ban, so a lot of mid lane bans coming out from SKT. And the thing is, those were the big team fight mages that people were playing. Those were the 2. Other than that, you were mostly just playing assassins. So both these guys forcing new options from the opposing team.
They take out the 2 best tank top laners. They take out the 2 best DPS mid laners, which actually speaks towards a more early game, aggressive, kill-focused game.
So every jungler left on the table. The question is who wants to pick what up, and it's actually going to be the Nidalee hover.
Here we go.
To me, it's interesting because
do it.
MLXG's been great at Nidalee, but Blank hasn't. But he still wants to first pick it and give the rest of the options over to SKT, which lets them grab this Poppy.
Well, the thing is, if we're going early game, you want MLXG to have Nidalee. Like, that is the pickup that you want. We saw it against against CLG already. This guy can take over the map.
Yeah, and we do note that Blank had 1 pick and ban phase where he had Nidalee available and ended up going with Lee Sin. But at the same time, earlier on in the tournament, SKT was willing to first pick Nidalee. So if you figure that they're going to more default back to their normal SKT state, they would potentially pick Nidalee in the first rotation. And since they're getting an early game focused game based on the ban phase, the Nidalee first pick makes a lot of sense.
It's just the interesting thing, though, is those 2 first pick Nidalee games started that 4-game loss streak for SKT.
This is so interesting.
When they ended up 6-4 at the end of the group stage here. So very interesting. The first pick Nidalee comes through, and despite the top lane pinch, it's SK2 who get the Poppy anyway. So unless Leaper wants to play his famous Quinn in the matchup, we're going to see Trundle, I suppose, and they're not even going for it yet.
And that is the interesting thing, because, you know, we've criticized the 1-3-1 out of this RNG lineup. However, when Quinn was a power pick, they would use it terrifically to set up flanks and really dictate that pace of the game.
And even before any of the Poppy nerfs, Quinn was used as a counter pick to the Poppy. So there's a very real chance we see Looper's Quinn in this game.
I mean, he played it in the finals against EDG when everyone thought it was forced out of the meta. So it's definitely something that he is very comfortable going back towards. Yeah. You know, SKT have a chance here if they go with Wolf's Trundle of pinching the support position, top lane position even further for RNG.
And look at the hover, the fact that the blue team, that Royal, never even went for the Trundle when there was no risk on picking that Lucian. Sivir was already grabbed up. There was no contest here. We're going to wait to see what SKT picks for, but it seems like they don't even want to play tank top.
And Wolf has also played Soraka later on into the group stage. It's something Aframu actually thinks is going to happen more in the bracket stage, as people will be playing Soraka because it's been so successful. And it goes back to an older version of Wolf, like in 2015 when he played a bunch of Janus. So he can play range supports, he just hasn't played much of them lately.
This is really dangerous, however. You have two... your duo lane has no way to escape. I mean, you have Sivir ult at level 6, and you're going up against a Braum, and Nidalee, and a Lucian. If there is a kill threat in the bottom lane, that is already established right now, and Soraka is very easy to camp out and gank.
Absolutely. It looks like SKT's going with another one of those kite back compositions. When we watch them in the group stage, or even when we actually pay much attention to them in the LCK split, very rarely are they the ones really forcing hard initiations. They are the best team in the world at kiting back, and that's what their team composition is built to do in this game. We'll see how hard RNG goes into the initiation camp to try and make that a punishable move.
Waiting on this one, looking like that they want to send LeBlanc to the front lines, of course, can be stopped up by both the Poppy and the Soraka in their own interesting ways, and yes, it will be Trundle top.
So that is interesting. Trundle is played a lot in the LPL.
All right. These teams have clearly been doing some lab work in the off weeks. Faker will be going with a mid lane Fizz. The lane dominant matchup for the top lane would be in Looper if we get standard lanes. In fact, these lanes do look a little bit swung in RNG's favor, especially with the Nidalee. But that Fizz is going to take a little bit to wrap our heads around.
That's going to be interesting. It was interesting because during the middle of this tournament, SKT had shied away from playing Assassin mids, went back to the Azir and Ryze, the Lulu, the Zillion, back on Assassin down for Faker.
And it looks like both teams do want to focus on opening up the map a little bit more because both top laners currently have Teleport as their summoner spell of choice, something that the LPL love doing on LeBlanc, and now SKT from Korea are replicating the same on their Assassin mid laner.
Yeah, in 51 games this year, Faker's played Fizz once. So it is in his pool. Every champion is in his pool, but it's been very scarcely used.
Unsurprising that Fizz is in the champion pool here. I feel like that's his natural place to be. And yeah, as long as summoners don't change, double teleport on the double Assassins mid. Again, atypically you talk about that being very normal for Chinese League of Legends. Well, we're here in the country, so I guess no big surprise here.
Yeah, they just changed the one on the LeBlanc, so...
Okay. Yeah, as we get ourselves through the rest of the picks and bans, the coaches shake hands and get off stage. It's now up to the 10 players on the Rift to get themselves into this match. Game 1 of the best of 5. Tweet at LOL Esports, hashtag RNG winner, hashtag SKT win. If you're rooting for China or you're rooting for Korea, we are ready to go into this matchup. Yes, it will be that Ignite. LeBlanc gets the teleport of Fakers. Fizz and South Korea does own the Rift here. Higher percentage of their players brought out the icons, but now we are ready to get into Game 1.
And so much of this Game 1 is going to be about the early game with the jungle Nidalee in there right now. How much can MLXG punish Blank and the rest of SKT? If you think about their solo lanes, they're actually two fairly low wave clear early game lanes right here. And what is RNG going to do at level 1? It looks like they're actually trying to push Faker out of vision and sneak in the brush.
Ooh, I don't know if they quite got spotted by Faker, but they're hoping they can get some of that going through. But an early trinket ward by Blank spots that MLXG, Mata, and Woosh are heading up. They should have seen that trinket go down, so they know they're spotted. And it will be an invade with counter wards coming out from the bot lane of SKT.
And this is one thing that RNG have done well all tournament long. Have a proactive early game. Ensure that you can get those standard lanes if that's what you're looking for. They've also got multiple first bloods before minions had even met in that first lane. One of them was with a very similar tactic there. So, because they have picked these 3 winning lane matchups and an aggressive jungler, imperative that they're able to get standard lanes right now.
Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of times when teams are looking to absolutely lane swap is when they will put those deep wards down, but it's also just to scout early on in the map. So you can still then try and use those wards to scout where the duo lane is. And it looks like RNG is trying a delayed move out of their base so that once they are spotted by the deep wards SKT would have put down, they won't necessarily have time to react. There they were
spot the duo
spotted,
lane.
but SKT is already there, so they're trapped into these standard lanes.
Royal making sure no one's sitting in a brush cheekily, and there will be fun in the 2-on-2 lane. But look at this, SKT waiting around very long time to try to punish the Krug start. And that will still go to Royal Never Give Up's duo lane. They should also get an XP range in time, which leads for a slight advantage to the Chinese duo.
And Sivir doesn't get the early push, more importantly. So this means that an earlier level 2 should come through out of RNG.
And we also have to keep in mind that SKT was actually playing more towards the lane swap, starting with the double jungle, and Duke had to teleport top lane to match Looper. So already, if they get an early gank on Duke's lane, it would snowball Looper ahead.
Great early guessing there by RNG. I guess they did actually see the fact that the Sivir and the Soraka had been the wards that warded that bottom lane and said, well, unless they recall this second, we get to match them up. Well done by RNG, and we get to watch the top lane fight. The teleportless Duke is something that Royal could have tracked. There's level 2 first as well for the duo lane, so all these advantages are theirs right now. But it can always be turned around later. Bang, late on the Q as well, missing the CS.
Yeah, and it's the little things, right? They know that Duke double jungled because he got level 2 off just the melee minions and one of the range. So, like, you 100% know that Poppy has been in that position, and this just plays so far into MLXG's hands. See how much quicker he is at clearing out his own jungle, getting around the map on the Nidalee over the Graves.
Yep, already going to have that experience advantage on Graves, and Blank, just because of the champion matchup, unless MLXG makes a mistake, will not be able to catch him. And then we also have to keep in mind the early minion lead that RNG got by taking the small Krug meant they hit the level 2 power spike, and that means they're going to be able to consistently shove SKT. And so these are now 3 pushed in lanes for SKT and a jungler who is farming slowly. So this is completely in RNG's time to capitalize.
And so far, tracking the first 3 waves, Royal's duo has missed 3 CS and SKT's have missed 6, based on the amount of minutes that would be available to both these players at that time. So the duo lane is growing their own minion lead up about 70 gold or so. And you can see, predicted that Wolf would juke back into the queue. Didn't happen though. Mata doesn't land the skill shot.
They may have even burned a summoner spell if that ended up landing, because it would have been a stun in pretty good range without minions to hold them back. Either way, they're just going to continue to try and extend this farm advantage, and SKT is going to look to absorb, but it's tricky to do that with this Fizz lane.
And this is one of the scary points going in for SKT. They are, in my opinion at least, too often willing to pick a passive bottom lane against a lane that they know wants to go aggressive. And you already heard Deficio speak about it. At one point, you have to either resign to being incredibly passive and just absorbing a CS deficit in a lane, or you have to try and fight fire with fire. And we've seen them do that in both games they played against RNG, but with losing lanes. So this time around, I do expect them to stay at home a little bit more and just play for that late game scaling.
Looking at individual performances right now, that we have a 2,500 gold lead for MLXG, as that jungle lead is going quite nicely. You're still seeing these very small advantages in the mid lane and the bot lane. Faker did not jump in time. He still took the burst. That means he has to recall.
Yeah, I mean, Faker has been known as the god of counter matchups. If he has the ability to do a counter pick, he's usually able to do it. But early on, at least in this LeBlanc lane, he hasn't been playing it to its optimization. He's taken too much damage, forcing an early recall and allowing MLXG to get really good wards into Blank's jungle.
That could make things very difficult. The top jungle's already cleared anyway, so the rest of Royal can assume that Blank would be bot side until he's spotted on this ward right here. But it's too late. MLXG has already taken the Raptor camp away, and there's still nothing for Blank to kill. As he pink wards to get rid of the ward he saw. Really nice expectation there.
And I like the shallow pink ward out of Blank there. He needs to secure his own jungle right now. I mean, it's imperative for Graves to be able to farm up and start getting to the team fight stages of the game, and he's not going to be able to do that with MLXG in his face all the time. So SKT right now, they're just in consolidation phase. You can see that they've warded up the river, all the entrances. They want to be able to track MLXG and just be able to push out the laning phase.
There we go. Bang finally did not have the cooldown up, but guess what? Woosh is going to get rooted up, so unless Nidalee's coming down, actually it's LeBlanc who is. They flash in for the play. Exhaust is on Woosh, and LeBlanc is almost in range. Faker cannot join. The Q's going to land. Woosh still dodging forward. Summoner heal burned. 4 summoners down for 3. And Royal down in health.
I think Royal actually goes too early on that gank. Xiaohu was never going to be able to make it in time, and SKT get a 3 summoner for 4 summoner trade. Yes, they're going to be going back to base, but because RNG used their flashes as well, they will have to recall after too.
But be careful, this is going to be dangerous for Looper, who pushes up, but Blank is right there next to Duke, trading blows back and forth. Looper getting a bit injured. He burned his ult to get some health back, and yeah, he's a big trundle.
He'd shopped. See, he had he just teleported back into lane, and he's got Cull Corruption Potion, so he might not even be forced back to base off that one. I do not think that was a good gank by Blank.
And this is something that EDG actually did against RNG in the final. You know, they recognized that they wanted to go into passive lanes. So EDG bought double Cull and just said, we're willing to scale with you. One of them was on their Trundle top lane. So I think that this is actually quite smart out of Looper. He understands he has a winning lane matchup already. Let's just continue to scale up. Use that Cull. It's good sustain in lane as well for the Trundle.
It is, yeah. He's going to get plenty of health back in this one. Xiaohu clearing away minions, getting hit up by Faker, but nice chain's going to land inside a minion wave. Couple hundred damage dealt, but Faker's still going to be okay, and he will be able to match the minion lead, partially thanks to Xiaohu's earlier roam that amounted to nothing. And we actually have an equal gold game right now.
Yeah.
Good catch-up by SKT.
I really do feel like that is heavily credited to SKT. The fact that Faker is still even in CS after having to do the early recall against Xiaohu, and the fact that all their lanes are actually holding even is very good. They might burn a flash here with this gank.
And they did. Nicely played by Duke. If he juked back, he goes back in a Trundle slow, gets a bunch more damage dealt to him, so he flashes to get away, but now we get Wolf running down for the deep wards. We had MLXG do that not long ago, but those wards have all timed out, and now Wolf controlling the southern jungle here, and he can track all of MLXG's moves. After seeing him topside, he knows he can't get stopped while doing this. Walks by a pink ward and feels safe enough to push it. As Blank is not far behind, Wolf does have backup, but he can't finish it.
Now that the Sivir lane has BF sword as well, it's actually very difficult for RNG to punish, especially once they hit level 6. It makes them incredibly hard to gank unless you're sending about 4 people at them, because they can run away with Sivir ultimate as well as the Soraka ultimate for sustain.
And this is kind of what RNG's worry was, right? If we go early game, have SKT short up enough of their weakness to just put on the brakes, you know, take it easy, just play a very slow tempo, even-paced early game and scale up with picks like Sivir. And they've definitely proven that they're not going to go aggressive at all in this early phase.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing about this, though, is that when you do look at the teamfight phase, it's arguable who's going to have the better teamfight composition, but MLXG still trying to push the tempo, knowing Duke's teleport and flash are down. They're going to be trying to deny him off the minion waves.
He's going to do so. It's already a 21 minion lead, but MLXG running topside after realizing, or kind of when he realized that Faker was being donated a blue buff. Right now, though, Xiaohu doesn't quite spot Faker. I believe now he does, and there's going to be no real turnaround, but Duke did still lose some minions. You can see a 500 gold lead now for Royal, at least temporarily, largely from the top lane of the jungle matchup. Attempt to push again on the bot side. They know the junglers aren't around, so it's the 2-on-2 damage. Wolf healing up Bang and staying alive in this one. Ulti's burned, though. Sivir and Lucian both popped theirs, and Bang has had great reflexes, constantly spell shooting whenever it's up from cooldown.
And once again, the further you can nullify this lane, ensure that you're going equal on the Sivir, make them play against the minion wave, the more I think it just suits SKT's style of play right now.
Ooh, good damage out of Xiaohu, and even knowing the range of the chains tether would be getting out of range of a possible counterattack.
Yeah, really competitive lane. You can see these guys are actually sacrificing a lot of CS in favor of Harass. Low CS per minute early on in this lane. About 70 to 70 is what the count's going to be 10 minutes in. MLXG trying to steep this dragon. I wonder if Blank's going to go down to check.
He may do so.
He wants the Rift Scuttler. He's definitely going to check.
He's going to see it.
He will see it. There it is. And MLXG, is he going to choose to stay for this one? No, but now Blank can go for it.
They're calling in reinforcements. MLXG is also not comfortable. Blank's also not comfortable.
Ooh, can he Kagero it in time? He can.
He's going to get it if he executes.
He is going to get it. That was a tight one. MLXG secures the first dragon of the game. The first objective of the game goes to the Chinese squad on home soil.
Yeah, and it was just the fact that Faker wanted the recall in there. He didn't want to fight for it at all, so they actually make the conscious choice to give it over.
And look at this. Looper just going for damage up against Duke, and Duke whiffs the ultimate. Doesn't buy the time. That means Faker's teleport means absolutely nothing. He did it from base, but he's going to have a really slow walk back and might lose a full wave. And now Looper says, no teleport, no problem. Let's go back for the fight. Duke low on HP. Still no flash. Looper's going to flash to catch him. And that's a solo kill. First blood for Looper.
And that's just bad communication. I mean, Duke had burnt the ultimate, no flash. Not even, there's no way you get out of that, and he stays in the lane. Teleport would have been available if he had just backed off and recalled.
Total misplay by Duke right there. He could have reset the wave and only lost a few minions. He was already losing the lane, so sometimes you get in that I think I can hold on mentality. So that is going to be a very big trundle when we move into the rest of the game. The question will be against this really disengaging team of SKT, whether or not he's going to be able to make it count.
And you know, it's the little things as well. Now Blank is shown topside. It means that bottom can recall for free. It's not going to be shoved in. They take Rift Herald as well. One small misstep like that can start snowballing the game, and it's about the vision, it's about the information, not only the solo kill they gave over.
Yeah, and I think for the first time all tournament, they don't give the Rift Herald to the jungler. It goes to Looper here, so he's going to be looked to really power through that lane onto Duke and just kind of trundle on him, outstat him more.
Individual gold is already up 900 for him. Plus the Dragon buff, plus Herald, but here comes Faker onto Xiao, who lands the Shark as well, looks to follow, and he actually does land the E, but it's not quite enough damage. Xiao, who nearly went down. MLXG does not need to heal him. And there's no true shot barrage. He'll get away.
Yeah, SKT going to try and make something back, and he had the Abyssal Scepter, I believe, before Xiao. I think Xiao got it on the recall. I could be
No, he definitely had it while recalling.
Okay, but the main thing that I do want to point out that's so interesting about this game is with the Rift Herald onto Looper, they actually might be going for a 1-3-1. That is the best use of a Trundle who is ahead rather than trying to force team fights, is just create a split-pushing monster, and it'll be such a test about whether or not they can get the deep wards down in order to do a proper 1-3-1.
Especially because he's going Ravenous. Like, if it was a Titanic, I would be like, you know, maybe they can team fight. Ravenous generally means, unless you get 3 items on your Trundle, you're stuck in a side
You cannot team fight well. Not against Sivir and Graves cutting you, not a chance. Going again for damage onto Duke.
I actually hate the Ravenous Hydra on Trundle. I think he has enough sustain with the Titanic and is just better in most situations, plus escape. But the Ravenous is just so all in on this one strategy that he will sustain no matter what. He can absorb a gank, come back, in 1 minion wave he'd be full health again. If he lives, which he has less health than with the Titanic Hydra.
And it's even further than that, right? It means you can withstand Poppy's damage whilst you're on turret and then sustain it back into the next creep wave. So I actually think it is dependent on securing a 1-3-1. They actually need to know where Blank is now to make sure he gets the free damage on the turret.
MLXG does not chase in. He saw Faker was defending and just gets rid of the regular ward that he put down. But now Looper's here to cut off the Graves. Plenty of damage there, forcing the flashes. I believe Quick Draw got stuffed. Here's the engage on a bang, but he flashes away from the Glacial Fissure. Slowed back up by Mata's Winter's Bite, but the easy wave clear, and the Royal Dueling cannot fight through that minion wave.
And credit to this SKT bottom lane. I mean, Mata's flashing at them, ulting pretty much on cooldown. He really wants to start some action in this bottom lane, but every single time they're burning abilities and summoner spells early to negate a lot of that aggression. In fact, they're pretty even in CS as well and have quite a lot of control over the bottom lane.
Without ganks, Soraka's the great equalizer in lane, like especially Soraka Sivir. They're just going to continue to shove out, even if you take a little bit of poke while you're clearing the minion wave. You will clear the minion wave and the other team will be forced into an even lane with you, which is why a lot of people actually try and lane swap early against Soraka or beat it early, because if you don't do those things, she's going to be able to win the lane or at least stay even.
Jeez, look at this.
Talk about winning a lane.
Well, there were 2 ganks. There's one that forced a flash away from Duke and a second one that forced him off a wave earlier on. So 2 attempts by MLXG tilted the matchup enough that Looper has now crushed the matchup level 11 to level 9. Cole is almost done stacking. It's got 2 left, and he's crushing this.
And now they need to get the deep wards if he wants to pressure turret number 2. Or we'll see RNG abandon the top lane and try and use the 2-level advantage with the Ravenous Hydra, which isn't the optimal way to take advantage of his item build to team fight, but it might be what RNG end up doing.
There's even a third possibility. I mean, that Xiaohu has complete kill pressure right now on Duke. Just send your duo mid lane. That you've already proven that it's very, very hard to kill this lane right now with the way Bang and Wolf are playing. Although that's a lot of damage.
Yeah, maybe Bang and Wolf are going to be trying to kill Whoosh because he has trouble sustaining if he takes any poke.
He's taking a lot of these Qs, plenty of attack damage.
They could 5-man this if they get the position.
Poppy is top lane, does have teleport, Trundle the same position. Graves coming down, Fizz as well. Look at the culling on a Bang. Will get restocked thanks to Soraka being a champion. And there's going to be no crazy flashy plays happening just yet. Mid laner staying equal. And we once again look at the mid lane as MLXG takes the farm and forces Faker out. He's level 11. Red buff slow
Just
is on.
hit him.
Yeah, jumps over the wall, but now looking for the play. Oh, good dodge by Faker. Gets away from the chains. That could have been a flash force if it landed.
Absolutely. He'd already used the Playful Trickster. That's actually my favorite, most annoying Nidalee gank. You walk into the lane with red buff and auto attack. And it's so effective because you have to use an escape spell against it.
And look, even though the gank in the bottom lane wasn't successful, what it does, draws Faker down there, draws Blank down there. All of a sudden, Looper gains control of topside of jungle. He's able to dictate exactly where Duke can go. Ooh.
And I gotta say, I really love what Royal did in pick and ban. I'll talk about it in a second as the fish comes into Xiaohu. Knocked in the air. Good damage from Faker. Bangs ulti land. Sorry, Blanks does, and that's a kill for Faker in the mid lane. But here comes MLXG. Ovation a hop to get away. But a flash pillar from Looper is gonna take him down. Looper holds all the kills of Royal.
And even though it's a 1-for-1, once again, Juke just burned a teleport to try and get into a gank he had no right of even looking at.
Yeah, the counter push is actually going to be real. Looper can take the turret easily.
Walks up to Blank, says, get away from your own base. Troll King completely.
And this is just a little mistakes we're talking about in SKT's gameplay. All of a sudden, Looper has teleport advantage over Duke because Duke just burns a summoner spell. Like, there's no way that that's ever going to be a fight in your favor.
Yeah, Looper way ahead of Duke here. Duke's teleports haven't been great all tournament, and Faker did play this quite well, to his credit, but then his was just outnumbered down the stretch. He absorbs the poke from Xiaohu. Xiaohu can't dodge the Shark, and since he just got harassed, there's no way he can dodge this right here. Faker guesses right on the clone, is able to finish him off, and then even jukes the spear from MLXG, but once Looper was here, there was just nothing else to escape with. Ultimate takes him down. Why start that teleport? They're going to lose that trade regardless, and now they can't match teleport. Looper has the teleport advantage, and these are SKT's early game fears fully realized. This is 4,000 gold 17 minutes in.
And the gold is 2 turrets going down thanks to Looper and Xiaohu making mid lane go down, Looper and MLXG making top lane go down, bot lane still going equal. But of course, Sugar will have a great late game as time goes on. Dragon number 2 should be almost no contest.
And now SKT will have to continually concede these objectives with the teleport advantage down, as well as the 4,000 gold lead. This is disaster time for SKT right now.
Especially because RNG's game plan relies on just keeping Trundle in a side lane, either top if you want to stack dragons, or bottom if you want to open up the Baron area. With 30 CS, 2,000 gold, there's no way Duke can stay with it.
And I want to finish complimenting Royal's champ select plan. Ban the 2 best top laners. You expect SKT to take Poppy. They hand him the champion on a silver platter. First round red side, grab the Poppy. That's cute. We'll take that Trundle, crush the matchup.
If you can secure that lane, even before the Poppy nerfs, Trundle would win the lane. Poppy was better because of the utility that she brought to team fights, as well as having better early lane swap scenarios. But Trundle is just going to outstack Poppy, especially considering the nerf. And RNG's actually making people question why we haven't seen more Trundle top, because people actually haven't tried to pinch the top lane matchup into giving the other team the Poppy to take the Trundle.
And I gotta say, huge props to Looper, because even for Duke to get here, he had to battle through Someday and Smev, who are 2 of the very best, probably the very best top laners in Korea. And here's Looper making it look almost easy.
And let's talk about how he won the lane. It wasn't through a teleport. It's not through anything Marta did, which is what we used to compliment him on. It was just individual micro outplaying. Sure, he had some help, but the gank that the first blood that he actually went for was just him soloing out Duke.
Again, advantages were gained by MLXG. We want to give some props to the manager screen right here. This Nidalee that was first picked for them. Royal wanted that early pressure. It has happened. He's up 24 minions. He's up 1,200 gold over Blank.
And he also went Rylai's before Roa, which for this game, I love. Why defer your power with the Rod of Ages when you can get the immediate power with Rylai's to try and snowball the game? Because RNG also has the fear in the back of their head. The first game against SKT was 60 minutes. The second was 54. They need to be able to close them out more quickly than that, and that's what they're going for with these item builds.
And there's like little things about Rylai's of why I like it. Generally, when you're against an Italy, you walk back in your creep wave, gank top.
Oh, Faker's top.
And this could be troublesome. Looper has popped ulti on Duke. He's got plenty of stats, but he's still getting whittled down by these champions. Faker jumping around, but low on mana, and Looper just does not care. Finally,
can he
starts
get him?
moving the health bar. The Graves ulti comes in, the Wish as well, and it's a 4 versus 1 to take down Looper.
But meanwhile, bottom lane, they've completely forced the duo off. They're going to lose a turret for it, even though they shut down the huge Trundle. Advantage still in RNG.
Yeah, that just goes to show you the power of the Trundle at this stage in the game. They do kill him, though, which can be a dangerous thing, but that is such a sacrifice of map pressure. Basically, 2.5 people, then a Soraka ultimate pitching in on that one, and it's going to be a while before SKT can bounce back to these lanes to get control of the waves.
CLG watching this game very intently. Could be their opponents in the finals, so they can win tomorrow's best of 5 against Flash Wolves, the number 2 and 3 teams in the playoffs here. And SKT, by the way, burned 5 ultimates in that engage. 4 for the top lane fight, but Bang also popped his ult to get away from the bot lane tower dive from earlier. Great dodge by Xiaohu getting away, but definitely a power lead right now for Royal. Faker's still rooted up, but again, healed by Wolf. He's there to keep these lanes salvaged. Kill-wise, it's still 2-2. SKT are keeping up in that regard, but they are losing the map 3 turrets and 2 dragons to 0 each.
Yeah, and losing the map like this is where you're going to be looking to see what type of deep warding RNG can do and how well they can do the 1-3-1. Even though they didn't have the wards for Looper to successfully run away from the gank, they had the map pressure to still punish the play. As long as RNG can keep getting positive trades whenever they have Looper getting attention spent on them, they will continue to extend their lead. But if that stops, that's when SKT will get back into the game.
And this is kind of the biggest question. You know, they've built this gold lead. It's 5,000 right now. Can they pressure the Baron area? Can they actually set up good enough vision to allow this split push bottom lane to continue?
Wow. Mata was alone there, and Faker didn't go for the Shark. There was only Whoosh anywhere near him. I feel like if that was Royal, they would have gone for that kill and like assumed no one was there. But there's no vision at all by SKT. It's a defensible choice to not go all in on that play, but that actually was a kill that was potentially there.
Yeah, and that is one of the big philosophical differences between these teams. SKT will almost always only go for fights where they have full knowledge of the enemy team, whereas RNG is willing to play by instinct and go in sometimes without full vision.
How about going in under a turret with 3 people behind him, Looper taking up the damage and doesn't even care because look at this turret going down. RNG swapped the dual lane back to the bot side of the map, away from the Baron, and that's theirs.
And this is something that SKT were doing against Flash Wolves, doing it against RNG. They're bleeding turrets without trading back in any fashion. It's 4 turrets to 0 right now, and RNG is not a team known for their macro play. They're just cutting off the jungle with good vision. Because they're stronger, there's no way that SKT can cheat through. And they're respecting them arguably too much, as you were saying, Freak. The rule for RNG is if you can't see a player, they're not there. The rule is for SKT, if you can't see them, they could be there. And it's just showing in the gameplay.
And now anyone who's there from RNG is going to be more powerful. We were talking about Looper winning his matchup. Okay, good for him. And MLXG out farming. But because of this 4-turret advantage, every single member of RNG has more gold than their opposite member on SKT.
Yeah, and from minute 1, RNG had the pressure in the lanes. That's why SKT has not fallen a single turret. They're trying to group up. Like, the idea with this Soraka Sivir thing is you sit outside the turret, you shove down the minion wave, you absorb the poke, and you out-trade while the other team tries to initiate on you. Or Faker goes in and makes a play.
They go in on MLXG. The wards were there. Nice and SKT, but Shamu turning it back around, picks off Wolf. Jungler for support. Now Faker's got a kite around, and here's Duke's
Another
teleport.
terrible teleport.
Again, canceled. Duke, I haven't even shown up to a lane yet with this.
We talked about the disengage you can play with Soraka, but once Soraka is down, you have to just abandon ship. You no longer play that game. So the instant Duke started channeling that teleport, we knew it was a mistake because Wolf was already down.
And once again, this is just little things in SKT's game plan that you don't expect to see. And Looper's found Duke again.
Duke down a level, looking to fight for the Krug. Looper gets it and walks away. Pillar actually...
Faker's on the way.
Slightly on the wrong side because here comes Faker. Sivir not far away either.
Dragon,
Bang is coming.
There's no way Looper can survive.
Flashing to try to push Looper into the wall. The Fizzler coming up. Dragon has been grabbed. Looper wearing Dragon 3 flashes. Ults Faker still trying to run to his turret. And can they even get the dive?
God.
No, they can't. Looper is completely unstoppable. Goes back in, tanks a Shark, and maybe bit off a bit more than he could chew. Just kidding. They're going to take down Faker through the wish. Now on to Duke, and his duchy is going to belong to China. As Duke goes down, Mata roams up. A double kill for Looper.
That is the type of fight that just breaks your morale for a game because they had given up so much to try and stop the Trundle, but he was unstoppable right there. And it was a 25-second gank that SKT could not convert on.
Yeah, but once again, you know, that was maybe an opportunity for RNG to open up the map, take down Baron. You had 4 members on that side. Instead, they commit to this 1-3-1 structure. Deficio said it best. You know, I think 8 out of 10 games they have first blood. 2 out of 10 games they have first turret. And that was a situation where they got the kills and didn't turn it into a big macro advantage.
Yeah, but this is the game where they also get first turret. I think that's what's so tremendous about this performance so far from RNG, because they kept their aggressive lanes, but they are actually playing the map right now. Everywhere SKT goes leaves a vacuum somewhere else on the map, and that's where RNG is sucked towards to make the play. And this was actually, funnily enough, we criticized it, the Ravenous Hydra doing work during the extension of this fight.
Yeah, it certainly was. And, you know, a couple of weird decisions one more time. Duke flashing here, not getting the wall stun. Go forward, get it against the guaranteed wall that the Trundle just walked against. Duke's play this game has just not been good enough for SKT. And then the communication on point between the top laner and the jungler.
Looper's so confident to go back in. Faker's ultimate comes back up during the duration of this fight. And it was actually a bait when he went back in because MLXG had just arrived for the heal. Like, there's just so many stats on Looper right now with his 3,500 gold advantage over Duke that Faker was completely outmanned, even though he was trying his best to carry this game. 100% of SKT's kills are on Faker, and he can't actually take advantage of it.
And this is why they seem to go away from playing Assassin mid lane, as they know Faker can get a lead. But this tournament has proved that that is not enough when he's on an Assassin pick. I think they wanted to go early with them, try and drag them around the map, and maybe a little bit surprised with how RNG are playing this 1-3-1.
And this is actually why when we were trying to theorize the pick and ban phase, we thought that if Azir and Ryze weren't going to be in Faker's pool, he would go to a Lulu or a Zillion and play more of a control-focused game because, believe it or not, this year for SKT, that's been their most successful strategy in the LCK and even here at MSI. But they go back to the Assassins once again. It doesn't appear to be working. If they do end up losing this game, as it appears they will with the way RNG is trying to pressure in all lanes, I wonder if they stick with that strategy.
It's the beauty of a best of 5. You've got a lot of games to figure out what's going on, and typically the best team's the one that immediately reverse course after game 1. They don't say, we played it bad, play the same champ select. I've seen that sometimes. It's never pretty. And this time around, SKT might actually change things up if they can't turn something around here.
I'm also getting ahead of myself a little bit. This is still SKT with the Sivir. They know how to stall, and we're only 27 minutes in.
Thankfully for RNG, they've got the Braum to kink things up, and now he's got to run away. Suddenly, they disengage. Working out for SKT. Faker's in, he picks up Mata. There's a teleport in for Duke. This could be that turnaround fight. They're looking for Looper. That Trundle is tanky, but he will be going down. A 2-0. SKT do find the comeback team fight. Xiaohu has to run. The wave is cleared.
Yeah, and once again, this is the first time that we see them go into 1-3-1, double teleport into the mid lane, and over-aggression out of Mata costs them.
Yeah, beautiful collapse by SKT right there. Never count them out of a game. Every game they played against RNG this tournament, RNG's had gold leads for pretty much all of it. And the same is true in this game, but that type of play from SKT makes you know they're not out of the game yet.
And once again, this is a composition from SKT that wants to kite back. Why try and hard engage? Go to an objective, set up correctly, RNG. MLXG still looking to go aggressive. Like, that fight should not happen in the mid lane. That team fight should happen around Baron. Make them hard engage on you. Do not give them the opportunity to kite you back down a lane.
And that's exactly the type of flaw we would talk about with RNG. For 25.5 minutes, they were playing the macro game quite well, but that time they didn't have enough pressure going on the side lanes to make the collapse from SKT punishable, and instead RNG collapsed in very late after they had already lost their tanks, and it allowed a very fortuitous fight for SKT.
You can see the kind of damage that Bang is able to put out on this Sivir. Normally, I think Braum is great into the champion. You can stop Ricochet, you can stop the Q, but with how fast Mata died and got pushed out in that fight, Bang got so much done there. Royal, I believe, should even know that there's wards in the back of that pit. They've been there for a little while now, and the Baron attempt means nothing.
And they don't have a teleport. Get Looper into the bottom lane. The other 4 members go back, buy a pink ward, set up around the objective properly.
Yeah, I think punish the double teleport, obviously. But here, SKT has 3 people in the mid lane, and as soon as Mata goes in, he wasn't respecting the double teleport, actually. They were still a little bit out of sync. Duke should have been in a lot earlier there, but Faker's the one who goes in and makes the play initially. He then zones out the damage dealers for RNG and allows SKT the time to kill Looper. And yeah, they're going to be setting up for Dragon 4 here.
30 seconds till it spawns. Looper did just burn his own teleport. Actually looked for a flank on the right side of the map, and now the re-engage SKT. A flash gets away from the Shark. Faker forced to disengage himself now. And there's that fight, splitting ulti from Mata. Blank, low on health. He has to flash away now as well, but Xiao, who nearly in range, silenced out by Soraka, will have to jump right back out. Bot lane was actually pushed in, and SKT have their second turret now.
And that's exactly the type of fight you want if you're the Soraka team, because they just absorbed that fight. RNG doesn't sustain up as well as them, and now 4 members on SKT are sitting at full health, whereas RNG is down some ultimates and much more health.
Wolf putting him back up to full. Bang spell shield, but gets turned around by the pillar. Has to flash away. Blank a little bit low, but Mata is maybe going to go down. Pops the shield, and Faker has to go right back out. Whoosh! Looking for Blank. Can't quite land all the damage. MLXG very low. His mana pool's too shallow to heal everyone up as much as Wolf can. So Royal will have less health.
Ooh. SKT has been playing these fights so well right now, but they need to be able to disengage. It's hard for them to initiate.
And they're not going to stop this one. So Dragon 4 picked up. Looper puts the pillar down. The traffic cone says stop, beware, and they're going to get away. Level 17 on the Trundle. Highest level in the game. He's still the man to watch out for. 3 huge completed items, and Randuin's isn't far away.
And so the clock continues on this game. 5th Dragon now 6 minutes away. They can get someone into that bottom lane, start pushing it out, try and set up around the Baron. All they need to do right now, RNG, is create pressure points. Don't go for the fights like you were against CLG that ultimately cost you the game. Set up the map correctly. But again, they walk out of base one more time. Doran's on your 80 carry, no pink ward. They buy an Amp Tome on their mid laner, no pink ward.
Yep. I mean, track MLXG. He's got 2 open item slots. They still have the Dorans, as you said, but he is going halfway defensive with the Hex Drinker and then also aggressive with the BF Sword. And RNG hasn't been setting up very successful Baron baits throughout the whole tournament. They've just been hoping to get a late-game teamfight around the area without necessarily prepping it in the way a Korean team would. So, can't say we're too surprised with what's happening right now.
So 6,500 is the gold lead for Royal Never Give Up, which they've had a lot of the times, and they've still lost a couple of games here. 1 to Counterlogic Gaming, 1 to SKT right here. They actually lost the game to SKT, still holding on to a gold lead. So
they lost both their games holding on to gold leads. I mean, the one against CLG was bigger, I think.
Yeah, that was almost shameful.
17,000 gold against CLG, but it was more like 5,000 or 6,000 gold against SKT. And this is actually closer to the game 1 for me against SKT than the game 2. Game 2 was much more of a bloodbath, but game 1 was RNG jumping out to an early lead, actually getting a lot of picks onto Faker, and then SKT continually being able to disengage, farm up, until they all reached 6-item power points, and then RNG was able to win a teamfight actually around Dragon number 6, if you can believe it. So we could actually be in store for another similar game like that.
Yeah, we certainly could. And, you know, touching on item builds quickly, we see another 3rd item, Lichbane out of MLXG. It was something that a lot of people criticized. In this game, 1-3-1 split push where Nidalee should be controlling the jungle and then chipping away at turrets. I don't mind it, but if they ever get into these 5v5 team fights, it is outright a poor item choice over something like a Zhonya's Hourglass. So RNG's decision-making in this game now has to be on point because they've even committed themselves further to this through item builds.
Yeah, MLXG has 30 magic resist, the base value he has. So he basically takes true damage from Faker, who, would basically one-shot him. He's got to be very afraid of his positioning here. Maybe going for a Zhonya's next, which will help MLXG some. He can outplay the fish and things like that, but it's a lot of damage dealers, right? Trundle only half tank in a way because he went Ravenous Hydra, and Mata's Braum only has so much gold.
Yeah, it's a 4-item mid laner on Xiaohu compared to just 3 completed items on Faker, but it's because he's gone with some of the cheaper items from Relanomicon and Void Staff, both lower in cost, but SKT definitely bouncing back in this game. It was 5,000 to 6,000 gold 8 minutes ago, and it's still 5,000 gold, so the percentage difference is lower now, even if the absolute is the same.
Ooh, nice attempt there. Makes Faker jump forward. Burns
Cool.
his Playful Trickster out.
So that is exactly why I like Rylai's on Nidalee, by the way. The counter is walk with your minion wave, right? You can't get hit by those big spears.
But
with
the Luden's
Rylai's,
triggers.
the Luden's triggers are slow. So you just throw spears at minion waves all game long.
And you maybe get a setup for a team fight.
The last item I also want to touch on is the Infinity Edge onto Bang. 3rd item, Infinity Edge, means if he gets the crits in the team fights, it's massive. But if he's low, he can easily get bursted down.
Wolf burned his flash. He was ignited as well. Xiaohu burned his own flash to get in, so more summon was lost by RNG, but Wolf will have to recall for this, which gives
They might go
some
straight for
time.
Baron.
Yes, to go right away for Baron. They swept out the pit. There are no wards for SKT. Looking for Blank on the other side. They actually land the chains. They're going to go in for Graves, but he gets out just barely with collateral damage. Looper pops the pillar, but no one caught out by it.
And they haven't even forced the teleport from Duke right now, so they're going to continue to force down as they do kill it very quickly. This has got to be the fight, but it's not like they prepped it hugely.
Their one way is the Sivir. That's gone. We'll see if they can get it.
They got it. That's the Baron. Blake flashes forward just to get caught by the Braum ulti. Now Bang in the bad spot. Pillar catches him and he goes down to Xiaohu. The teleport is late from Duke. It's a 5v4, but he sends Looper away. 4v4 for a time. Now Duke taking plenty of damage, stunned up.
They get Wolf.
But Wolf goes down. Xiaohu on a killing spree, and the chase in for Duke. A nice slow, a flash away from MLXG. Faker wants the kill. He gets it. And now can he get any more? Pops the Zhonya's. Now can he get over the wall? The answer is yes, because Woosh gave him the opportunity, but Flash the chase does pick up the kill. 8-6 and 4v1, 2 on the map.
Yeah, and 4 still have Baron buff. It's a Trundle, very fed LeBlanc, as well as Illusion. They just might push down. There's 50 seconds on the mid lane.
I think Duke's teleport into that fight was late, and RNG just punched him right in the mouth as they're trying to dilly-dally around the Baron pit. They go for it. They get the fight afterwards. Blank went in for steal. This should be
Included. Blank's gonna go down. His health bar is just that. Whoosh has gotten another kill for himself. 9-6 now on the scoreboard. Revives coming in 4 seconds. The bot lane will be back for SKT. So Royal's out, but they've gotten a ton.
Yeah, power of Sivir there, respecting it. She has the wave clear, even against Baroned up minions, because she's gone the Infinity Edge. What a turnaround, however, from RNG. They finally commit to the Baron, and that's why having something like a Trundle or a Maokai is so good for this team, because it can just tank it up. And once again, no Sivir ult means there's no way in.
Yeah, and also only one blue trinket on SKT, which was on cooldown, so they couldn't actually scout the Baron pit very well. Once again, Duke's teleport really late. Bang is already down, and then he just knocks Looper away, which when the fight is over, stops their chase very slightly. Wolf is also positioned very far forward because they were doing a slow tunnel into the pit. All in all, RNG did prep this quite well, but SKT needed to teleport in a lot sooner. And this will be 5th Dragon they're going to be able to pick up as well.
5th Dragon overlapping with Baron. You can see Whoosh. Yeah, a bit too far to the right. You got to save this flash by not giving Faker a Q target. Ultimately, not a huge deal. And look, it's RNG incredibly far ahead in their home country.
And Sivir is great in front to back comps. When both teams line up, tanks in front, damage dealers behind, because when she hits the tanks, she's hitting the damage dealers. Lucian is horrible in front to back comps because all you can do is put all of your damage into the big meat shield in the front. That should be Duke, but because he's always late to these team fights, it never sets up that way.
Absolutely.
And now we're in the situation where the pushing begins. Baron on for a little bit longer
Baron
here.
and 5th Dragon.
Dragon
the
5
ultimate buffs.
evaporates towers. There's one reduced to rubble into a gaseous form, if you want to take the literal meaning of evaporates here. And now pushing forward. That's going to be a dead inhibitor number 2. 11,000 gold lead. Looking for the death knell right now. Baron timing out, Dragon still on.
And look at the confidence, walking minions into the base. Now we'll go bottom lane. We're going to clean this one up. This is not what they did against CLG. They disrespected CLG, lost the game with good reason, because CLG turned that one on a dime, but they're making sure they're not making the same mistakes out of against SKT. We asked you if they could do it. They definitely can.
Basically, SKT is going to need an assassination on either Whoosh or Xiaohu, in my opinion, to stop this one, or Bang is just going to have to be able to free hit everyone. They're walking straight into this one, and they need to wait for the waves of super minions to hit.
But
Looper's actually flanked around the back. The one-man army.
And he bought so much time. That's the turret going down. The final inhibitor will drop as well. Under 40 minutes. Royal looking to close it out. A nice stop. Xiaohu can't quick it in thanks to Duke's play.
And one more time, no Bang ult means the assassination is now much harder.
And here is maybe the final push on to the Nexus turrets themselves. One's gone down. Faker in the back line looks for Mata. He'll get the kill. Pops Azonia's Looper low as well. SKT trying to climb back in, and they will get that second kill. 2 down for Royal, and they will have to give up this push for now.
Yep, they have to regroup, but they've done a bunch of damage to the base. All but one turret killed, all 3 inhibitors. The danger here is that SKT is going to free farm 3 waves of minions and catch up a little bit in items, but the next push, when these guys respawn, RNG is going to go for the end of the game.
By the way, that's why we call Faker the best player in the world, because he's just able to weave himself into the backline. Target selection, beautiful from him. He understands Mata wanted to be the tank, and he had enough damage to take him out.
Yeah, RNG commit pretty hard
front line under a turret
on that first turret, and Looper doesn't have ultimate here to beef up his front line either. Great Zhonya's timing by Faker as well, and with the front line down, SKT is very easily able to run at them. More kills for Faker's Fizz, but just hasn't appeared to be enough.
It's the interesting thing is both these teams came in with a plan. SKT banned 2 mid laners, said Xiaohu, pick your LeBlanc, we'll play Fizz into it, it'll be great. And hey, Faker's 6-3 on a losing team. That's solid. Royal's plan, we're going to ban 2 top laners, grab the pop because Looper's going to crush you. That plan is working better.
And it's the early game plan, I think, that's also working for RNG. The fact that they were able to pick themselves into a bunch of pushing lanes while still having the Nidalee just allowed them to push through the map and continually get those gold leads.
And in a series with RNG, you tell me they ban Alistar Maokai on the blue side, I say you're crazy, but the priority they've given to their jungler and the power they gave to MLXG to pressure lanes, I mean, he's 0-2-6, but he was just able to put the jungle on farm and get into the mid lane, get into the bottom lane and force him off minion waves, go top, get a 40 CS lead for his top laner.
Yeah, this will be the attempt at the final push. The idea for RNG is they get all the waves going at the same time. They don't have Baron, they don't have 5th Dragon, but they still want to push with these triple inhibitors being down. When the super minions are there, even if SKT tries to fight them, it's going to hurt. The Ricochet is actually insane in these situations because it can cut through all the minions.
And it gets rid of the minions. Mata flashes away with the Shark, doesn't tag any more of his teammates. Duke QSS is off the Trundle ulti. Looper will not get any more stats for this one. Faker brought back near to full health thanks to Wolf's play. But here's the next round of the minion waves. Mid inhibitor respawns, but that'll be an easy take for RNG. But it gives SKT time to knock down that bot lane minion wave. But Duke, a bit far forward, taking plenty of damage, but he's going to stay alive for now. Here's the tackle in the front line. Mata, a bit low. Duke, dangerous as well. Mata has to run out. Faker pops Zonia's. Looper has GA, but he's very, very low. The slow tags on, and they're going to chase it a blink. Can't quite kill him off. Bang has to flash away from a Trundle pillar. Mata stops it, and has to kill an MLXG, but they trade back on a bang. Whoosh has to kite out, and Faker gets him. A 2-for-1 to SKT, but the top lane is taking a lot of damage thanks to the minion wave. Blake is out of mana, and here comes the damage up, but Faker's out of mana as well. They just can't fight back, but here
they might get aced, though.
They want Xiaohu, and I don't think they can get the Nexus, so here comes the damage up, but there's the shutdown. It's Looper alone against the world, and can he get anything else done? He is trying to win.
They can't kill him.
Himself.
He's unkillable.
Looper wins game 1 for China.
With all the minions dying, he kept sustaining through the fight with the Trundle passive. And at 1v3 at the end of the game, he just waltzes in to finish it. What an ending.
And finally, Royal just hard commit to the Baron, to the end game push. They're sick of playing this where they can't close out games, so they go hard. They risk losing, but they end up winning.
I love high-risk League of Legends.
Oh my
I love the
goodness.
plan they went for. The eggs in the Looper basket.
I mean, we talk about high-risk League of Legends, and even though SKT was picking a disengaged composition, picking that Fizz as the first Fizz at MSI is also high risk. So both these teams wanted to do that. And also,
first mid lane Fizz.
There we go.
Yeah, the first mid lane Fizz. So it doesn't actually change our totally unique champions. You're absolutely right about that. But, oh man. We were wondering if the SKT team was going to bounce back and just look dominant like everyone expected them to coming in. The answer to that is a definitive no after one game, because RNG looked just as good, if not better, than they did in group stage.
The question for RNG was, can they do anything but teamfight? Answer, yes. Pick 3 winning lanes, get a pressure jungler, smash them in the early game, then pull the map apart.
Yeah, I was actually really impressed to see RNG be able to use a lead that wasn't just Xiaohu. Right? Okay, MLXG has camped that mid lane, the level 3 Graves. We've seen it like 3 times now. Okay, well, LeBlanc's out first blood. Go Xiaohu, try to carry us. But this time it was Looper. It was playing for that top lane matchup, get it ahead, and that wedged most of those 25-minute leads that RNG had. And it meant so much. It meant the first 4 turrets.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about SKT, like, in their huddle, what are they going to be able to tweak in that last game? Because they had 4 days to come up with this strategy. They don't get to switch sides of maps, and they've already tried some strategy tweaks in the group stage. I don't know what they're going to do next.
You got to figure out what it's going to be. It's going to be a great series. The best of 5 for a spot in the finals at MSI. So Dash, take it away.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. RNG coming out with a big win to start the series. But I want to go straight into Champion Select because we saw what we were asking for, Kobe, a little bit of champion diversity in the lane. As they mentioned, we saw some top lane Fizz getting picked, but also that red side. Game 1, immediately showing us a new champion in that pool by Faker.
Yep, a little bit. And this is actually what we were expecting. I like this game a lot because it did reemphasize a lot of the points that we were talking about before going into it. And very clearly, in the first pick and ban, we could see RNG focusing on that top lane, 2 top lane bans. They very obviously wanted to get Looper the counter pick, whereas SKT focused very heavily on that mid lane. And Faker, as you said, we talked about he's been using the Fizz in solo queue, and they wanted to get this matchup. But the fact that RNG also had the game plan of playing around their winning lane so easily, getting the Nidalee up there, and all he had to do was spend 3 seconds to burn a flash. Huge lead for Looper, and they were able to ride that all the way to mid-game map control, which is what we were questioning if they'd be able to do.
I mean, a lot of people would look at this pick and ban phase and be like, why do you ban Maokai Echo and give them Poppy?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, that doesn't make any sense. That's all the 3 best picks, and you're not first picking Poppy, but it's obviously to set up that counter pick in the top lane for Looper and say, you know what, we're just going to steamroll this one lane. The problem with RNG is, in case it was a lane swap, obviously a lot of the power would have been taken out of that composition because it built so heavily around Looper winning 1v1.
Yeah, lane swap would have definitely messed with the plans here. We did see also a shift now in playstyle from SKT, very much so more timid. Spawning on the castle said like 3 winning lanes. I would actually argue that some of these lanes from SKT could win a lot harder, but they elected not to. If you look at what Wolf and Bang were doing in the bot lane, Soraka Sivir can win that lane basically on push and out sustain, but from the get-go they had the option to push in, but because they respect MLXZ so much, because they're so afraid of teleports, their entire playstyle was centered on passivity in the bot lane and just being pushed in. So I hope that at least somebody comes out swinging a little bit in that bot lane.
I think it was very, very clear. We saw an SKT lineup who, a bit as we talked about, had looked back at the games they played and said, guys, we are too aggressive early on. We shouldn't play that aggressive, because as you said, they had multiple chances to actually play very, very aggro in the bot lane, but you have a Soraka. You don't want to risk playing, you know, just pushing the lane 24/7, get early ganked, then suddenly you fall behind again and again. So I think they came in, had changed the mindset, but that actually meant that their composition where they were supposed to then have at least a 2v2 on the bottom side they could push, ended up just losing as well.
Yeah, well, I do want to jump to the point that Kobe hit on for just a brief moment there. The fact that early first blood went into the way of Trundle with MLXG visiting the top lane. We're going to pull that up on your screen because I don't want this to all go without saying that SKT wasn't aware of RNG's game plan and playing around it.
So yeah, in that replay that I was down on our screen, maybe we can give it back up later. What ends up happening, the first blood happens, and this is where Looper gets ahead. SKT's reaction is to try and shut down any other lane, hopefully, and then try and stop the bleeding from Looper, because we'll pan over to the bot lane right now, and we'll see what's happening with Wolf and Bang here. They'll sweep one of the brushes, and then they have 2 pink wards around, so the SKT did improve in that sense, that they played really well around stopping enemy teleports. Sweep one brush, pink ward here, pink ward even behind the lane, so they were doing that well. Sadly for them, Looper went on a rampage.
Yeah, I don't want to gloss over the first part of that replay because it was so important. Not only did Looper get that first blood, but he also drew out a teleport cooldown from Faker before that to try and protect Duke on Poppy right before he was able to go all in and dive the turret and still get it. And then he was able to build very offensively into the split push and create so much pressure. He also saved Xiaohu in the mid lane. So the amount that they gained from this top lane more than made up for SKT's strategy of trying to get that Fizz to the abyssal breakpoint, where then he can go offensive on the LeBlanc and try and win out from the middle of the map.
They tried to 2v0 him, didn't work. Then they took absolute ages killing him 3v1. Then he took 2 towers on the map. He just completely took control of the game.
But also trying to 2v0 him, honestly, when you have no ulti on a Fizz and you have a behind Poppy, that's the kind of calls you don't want to see in a semifinal.
2v1, not 2v0.
2v1, yeah. He wasn't even there. He just killed him.
The point is, that wasn't even the only 2 versus 1. They also, Blank spent valuable time as a jungler, Graves, going to a half-health Poppy lane versus a full-health Trundle. I'm ganking you. He smoke screened him. That's valuable time that you're wasting as a jungler. And another reason why my point earlier about the individual players from RNG still stands, and they shone through in this game.
And they absolutely shined. We also did see maybe a lapse in focus from SKT in the Baron call that RNG was able to pick up, because there was a bit of a dance going on, and then they all just kind of wandered mid lane and gave it away.
I almost never see a team take a Baron in the late game, or should we say early late game, without having a pink ward on the Baron. Because RNG still had exactly the same problems when it came to setting up their vision, but right here, they rushed the Baron because there's basically 2 things that can happen. Either SKT runs in to stop it and you get a team fight if you're RNG, or SKT is sleeping in the mid lane and you get a free Baron. So it's a win-win, and that's why they go for it, and SKT, they decided to nap it a little bit in the mid lane.
Yeah, it's a win-win, but all of these winning teamfights, usually when RNG plays LeBlanc, comes at least from Zhao flanking. If this teamfight breaks out, he's in full vision, so it's a much different context.
But there was no Soraka.
The biggest problem here is that it's allowed to do. Like, I mean, they tried it earlier, and you saw how hard they got punished. RNG started the Baron with 2 or 3, they got punished, they lost complete control of the map. Complete reset, but they're so persistent. You're like, fool me once, fine, I'll just keep trying. And eventually SKT is going to fall asleep, and it works somehow.
And RNG do deserve a tiny bit of credit. They did make baby steps, right? And maybe bump yours up from a 4 up to a 5, because they had pink ward behind it, and they swept it at least.
Yeah, in this game...
Again, the baby step is enough to be able to get a play like that.
And this game, it was oddly reminiscent of the 2 group stage games that we had prior, in terms of RNG establishing that early lead, this time being able to close it out and still... master the majority of the team fights. We only saw about 1 go in the favor of SKT. But now I want to look forward to game 2, because as we mentioned at the very top of the day, Crepo, they do not switch sides. So now it's all about information that you've picked up. What are these teams going to come back with in game 2? to walk away with the W.
I mean, I hope SKT respect RNG enough to know that they could have stolen Trundle away, because they were hovering the Trundle support right there. So there must be another counter pick out there for Looper in case he also lost a Trundle. So I hope SKT doesn't tunnel there, but we need to get rid of Nidalee. That champion is just simply too strong, early game impact in MLG.
If they would have listened to our opening pre-game, maybe
it's one
they
of those
would have
picks,
heard
right?
that.
Nidalee, Alistar, these picks that you can first pick if you're RNG. Overall, I understand what SKT were doing. Like, if we look at the mid game, you would have wave clear mid from the Sivir, and then you have the 1-3-1 with double teleport. And LeBlanc can never split push against that because she will not win the 1v1 and you get TP'd away from, and she does nothing. So I understand what they did, but because it was standard lanes, they lost top way too hard, and then it snowballs completely out of control.
And I actually agree with you, Crepo. I do hope that SKT realize that and they don't give the massive winning lane of the Trundle over again, because I want to see Looper on other champions. Looper can do more than just smash his head into the other top laner as Trundle. Let's be honest here, that's not too difficult to win that matchup. Looper's echo was, I had a whole rant prepared before about how well he can team fight and the other things that Looper can do, but I see you, Dash. I'm out of time.
I gotta get us out of here. I gotta get us out of here. I'm sure he would be happy to play Trundle the rest of the games, though, if it means they come away with the victories. Royal Never Give Up have jumped out of the gate with a Game 1 win, and the pressure's on for SKT to tie the series when they get back on the Rift. Our coverage of the 2016 MSI Semifinals will continue right after this.
Furiously pointing at the table.
As we get ourselves through the rest of the picks and bans, the coaches shake hands and get off stage. It's now up to the 10 players on the Rift to get themselves into this match.
Tanks a shark and maybe bit off a bit more than he could chew. Just kidding! They're gonna take down Faker through the wish. Now on to Duke, and his duchy is going to belong to China. Working out for SKT. Faker's in, he picks up Mata. There's a teleport in for Duke. This could be that turnaround fight. Can he get anything else done? He is trying to win. They got himself. Get it. He's unkillable. Looper wins Game 1 for China.
Welcome back to the 2016 MSI Semifinals, where RNG is one game up in this best of 5 versus SKT, and I'm joined by a familiar face, Imp, of course, world champion and currently playing for LGD. Welcome, Imp. You know a lot of these players very well, so the first thing I want to ask you about is RNG. They've been doing fantastically so far. What do you make of their tournament so far?
임프 선수 우선 안녕하세요. 그리고 여기 경기하는 선수들은 임프 선수가 다 개인적으로 많이 알고 친분 있는 선수들이 많을 텐데 지금까지 RNG 팀의 이런 경기력이나 성적에 대해서 어떻게 생각하시나요?
RNG가 LPL 리그 플레이오프 때는 되게 3대2까지 가고 그랬는데 갑자기 결승전까지 가면서 결승전부터 MSI까지 점점 오면서 경기력이 되게 올라간 것 같아요. 뭐라 해야 되지? 다른 라이너들이 되게 잘해졌다 해야 되나? 네. 그리고 지금 이렇게 SKT에게 이기고 경기력이 올라간 모습. 네.
While RNG was playing during the LPL spring playoffs, we saw them playing getting to very tight series 3-2, but then after they beat EDG 3-1, and while preparing for MSI, I think they improved a lot. All their players, they got a lot better than I used to know. And I think also here at MSI, while they beat SKT for the first time, they stepped that step further and got even better.
They have been doing really well. On the other side, SKT has been struggling during this tournament, quite unexpected. What do you think is going wrong for them in these games?
반대로 이제 SKT 팀은 지금 되게 이번 대회 동안 이제 고전을 겪고 있는데요. 임프 선수 생각하기에는 어떠한 이유로 SKT1 팀이 평상시보다 좀 실력이 좀 난조를 겪고 있는지 좀 말씀해 주세요.
되게 한국 팀들이 거의 다 그러한데 메타를 잘 만들지 못하고 이런 스프링 시즌에 새로운 메타가 많이 생기는데 그 메타를 한국 팀들이 거의 모든 팀이 그걸 받아들인 다음에 완성시켜가지고 롤드컵 때 잘하는 거거든요. 우리도 그랬고 블루랑 비교했을 때 그래가지고 지금 작년 MSI에도 그랬듯 이번에도 고전을 겪고 있는 것 같아요.
So in general, I think the spring season, it's when teams adapt to the new season and they make new metas. But Korean teams in general, they're kind of slow in adapting that kind of meta. So in the past, those strong teams that dominated Worlds, they weren't as good during the spring split. Like Samsung White, for example, at 2014, Samsung Blue was stronger because they were the team that was creating more the new metas. But by summer, the stronger teams would adapt that kind of meta and complete that meta to become that best team. So I think that's what happened to Korean teams for this year and last year. They just struggled more during spring split. Well, they'll get better the summer and World Championship.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like it repeating history for SKT at MSI last year and this year struggling. I do want to ask you about the bottom lane matchup. Of course, we have Mata there, your legendary partner in the bottom lane, playing with Wujin up against Wolf and Bang. How do you compare the two at this tournament?
그럼 지금 RNG랑 SKT의 바텀 라인에 좀 더 얘기를 해볼게요. 이제 RNG 측에서는 이제 임프 선수의 전설적인 파트너 같이 한 시대를 풍미했던 마타 선수가 있고 반대편 SKT에서는 임프 선수와 개인적으로 친분이 있는 뱅 선수가 있는데 그 두 바텀 라인에 대해서 어떻게 생각하시나요?
마타 형이랑 준식이 지금 RNG랑 SKT 바텀 방금 뭐라 해야 되지? 교전 양상을 보면 바텀에서 뭔가 사소한 싸움에는 SKT 바텀이 되게 유리한데 뭔가 잘하는 것 같은데 계속 RNG는 공격을 하고 막 약간 컨트롤 미스가 딜교환 미스가 나도 계속 공격을 하고 결국엔 큰 싸움에서 이득을 가져가요. 그 공격적인 거랑 약간 수비적인 바텀 네 그게 좀 차이가 있어요. 너무 어려워요.
Okay.
He's giving you a lot to translate.
So I think in general, SKT bottom lane is more defensive and RNG bottom lane is more aggressive. So looking at last game, I think SKT's bot lane, they won those small skirmishing fights, they won those small trades, but Mata keeps looking for those aggressive moves. He's trying to make those picks and those fights, and when they get in a big fight, teleports coming in, mid laners roaming, at those kind of big fights, RNG got more advantage off SKT eventually.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens in the next game. Final question though, Imp, who will win MSI and why?
그럼 마지막으로 결국 MSI는 누가 우승할 것 같나요?
섣불리 누가 우승한다고 말하기엔 좀 그렇고 오늘 방금 MSI에서 루퍼 선수랑 마타 선수가 경기하는 걸 보니까 옛날에 제가 같이 했었던 기억이 좀 추억이 좀 떠오르고 RNG 우승했으면 좋겠어요.
So it's really hard to say who's going to win at this point of the tournament. But like looking at Looper and Mata play, it brings back memories of like playing together like as a team back at like while Samsung White, that era. So to sum up, I would like RNG to win.
Okay. You have something to add?
LPL이 무시받는 게 싫어요. 안 하겠죠. LPL이 무시받는 게 싫어요.
I don't want LPL to be looked down on.
All right, well, I think RNG is proving that right now. Thank you so much, Im, for talking to us. A lot of love for Mata and Looper, and trust in RNG we'll see what happens in Game 2. So casters, take it away.
Thank you very much, Shocks. And yeah, from here where we stand, all we can do is literally look down on Royal because right now
we're looking down on everyone, Freak.
We are, but he talked about looking down on the LPL. And honestly, as far as gameplay goes, though, I don't think anyone can look down on the LPL and how well this top team has done. That was a great game one from RNG.
It's honestly really impressive to watch because, you know, LGD kind of had this style as well where they were a very much pile-in bottom lane behind their superstar AD carry in Imp. They play the lane very similar to now how RNG are playing it, you know, dominate the 2v2, attract a lot of attention down there, then be quicker on the rotation. And even though that game was a lot about Looper, as this series progresses, I do expect RNG to once again fall on that linchpin of always having an aggressive bottom lane that looks to dominate their opponent. They're not happy to win by 20 CS. They want to kill you.
Yeah, and I'm really wondering if the pick and bans are going to change at all from the sides of RNG because they were very happy with the way the picks played out. I mean, maybe you would see them do the same bans and then SKT would try and deny the Poppy and the Trundle, but we do know Looper's got Quinn, and that would be even further into the lane-dominant pressure the whole map style, and I would love to see it.
And I just think that the Nidalee is like the linchpin of that composition because if you have a stronger jungler, you can never treat a lane as a 1v1 or a 1v1 in the mid lane or a 2v2 in the bottom lane. You always have to account for the fact that Nidalee is going to be so much stronger than your Graves at that point of the game. And, you know, even wandering into mid lanes, auto-attacking Faker out, like there are little things that MLXG can do that Graves can just never replicate. And I think that is kind of the linchpin of this composition.
Yeah, Nidalee will turn even lanes into winning lanes if you have her on your team, and that is what's so critical. First ban, same for RNG. And Twitch also banned out from SKT. It's looking like we're going to see a very similar ban phase.
At the very least, SKT doing it in a different order, so now we get to see if they're going to play the same style. There's the Lucian ban as well, looking to now pinch Woosh's champion pool. All he's played all tournament long is Twitch, Lucian, Sivir. No Ezreal, no Caitlyn, nothing else.
He has a Jhin.
Oh, he's a Jhin game, you're right. One Jhin game.
And it was against SKT. And I think that Jhin is a good pick against SKT because they don't go aggressive. They kite back against it. And Jhin is just able to sit back and actually initiate team fights for this RNG lineup. He joins very late into the team fights.
Now, the exact same plan coming out of the Chinese squad. Royal never give up. Same 3 bans, same order. SKT have already added a new ban in Lucian, which means they have to drop one of Azir or Ryze.
Yeah, which will change the dynamic of team fights. So they've taken out the earliest pressure jungler, but we're going to be going for some big team fights. And the question we also have here is, you can trade Azir and Ryze theoretically, unless RNG thinks one champion is just head and shoulders above the other. And apparently that's Ryze for Xiaohu.
Well, it depends what style you want to play. If you want a team fight, I agree with you. Trade them as much as you want to. You want to open up the map. You want to play 1-3-1. Faker cannot take teleport. Like, Ryze just needs setup time. It just doesn't suit his playstyle as well, at all. It's more of a 1-1-3 with people rotating into the Azir lane, if that is how you want to play it. So I just think that with how Game 1 played out, Ryze is a much better pick for RNG's current strategy than what Azir ever would be.
And no surprise here, SKT taking an early round Sivir pick would lines up with their ban strategy. The Azir still coming through, though, so not trying to show off anything new, realizing that Poppy for Trundle wasn't exactly the best trade, and nothing else really required, as Kindred and Graves are a pretty easy trade too.
I do feel like, however, right now RNG do have to prioritize the Kindred because there is just so much control in AoE out of this SKT lineup that if you gave them Kindred as well, it would be way too strong.
I agree with that. And here, Kindred, I do think, is a little bit ahead of Graves on the current patch, although you can have fantastic Graves games as MLXD has had. So really, this entire early bit of the draft phase has just been power picks so far.
Ooh, look at this. Actually changing the strategy up. Elise coming through. They don't want any of those highly contested marksman junglers.
Graves.
They're changing the style.
They need initiation. I mean, if Wolf's going to play Soraka all series and you're going to run Azir, he can't be a primary initiator. They have to have some way to generate CC. Graves doesn't give you that at all.
Which they didn't have last game. They didn't have a way of generating CC aside from Faker trying to go in and solo people, which he did 6 times, but it wasn't enough to win the game. And I actually have seen Elise used as a fairly effective pick against Kindred, because if Kindred doesn't go Mercury Treads or have an early QSS, it's a good burst window to take her down, to take them down on Kindred, and it's a possible road to success.
It's also that you can invade Graves, and unless he kills you, kind of get away from it. You really can't ever invade an Elise if you don't have vision. I mean, her ability to just zero out a champion early on in the game is nearly unrivaled.
Whoa. Ooh, top
They're putting
lane
Rise top.
Rise with Callista LeBlanc. Changing things up. Looper again saying, yeah, I know what the top lane meta is. I don't really care.
And he's like, I don't care if I play into Poppy, and he doesn't think Duke has something else that could be good against it. And the thing is here, like, SKT gets to react to this and still have a counterpick. I do have to credit SKT for saving their top laners so they can't get counterpicked again, but they're also, it's been a while since they've had to go up against a Rise.
In the top lane, yeah, I imagine it's been a while for them here.
What?
And
30 seconds ticking down for Wolf to decide.
One thing that people, I guess, Rise does a lot of damage, right? But in top lane, it's such a longer lane that the CC starts becoming like even more critical. I mean, if you give MLXG half a lane to chase down Poppy, even if the Rise does no damage, MLXG will kill him.
But also, if you give Elise a stun target and Rise is pushed too far up, they can chain their CC and kill him the same way. So this will be a jungle-heavy focus on the lane. And last game, MLXG was able to come out ahead, but the early ganking of Elise can also be incredibly potent.
And once again, Xiaohu is hovering teleport on your screen. This time, I expect him to commit, because Rise is a very easy dive target in the early game, and you need some form of reaction.
Extra protection.
That can come in the form of that teleport.
And keep in mind, for Callista Braum to do well against this Sivir Soraka, they've actually got to get in there, get the Ren stacks, and dodge forward, so that team might need to reinforce the 2-on-2. Either of these side lanes could be easy points of attention here. As the picks and bans are done, the swaps come through. You see them on the screen there. Nice LED play mat for all the players. Definitely pretty cool.
Wicked stage we have here.
Yep. Mid-Season Invitational 2016 Semifinals. Game 1 went to China's Royal Never Give Up. Korea's SK Telecom T1 looking to turn this best of 5 around. And as the coaches shake hands, you at home know what this is about. Hashtag RNG win, hashtag SKT win. RNG will be blue every single game. SKT chose to be red on their sides, their choices as well. They won't switch sides, but maybe they'll switch wins.
And you know, guys, don't be scared to jump on the RNG hype train now. We've already seen them win once.
Yeah?
Could be more.
I mean, everyone in the stadium right now is on the RNG hype train. I have not seen this venue more packed than I have right now. And it's a Friday, so it's not even the weekend yet. All these guys are here in the middle of the afternoon to watch this team, and the 1-0 start is super promising for their chances. But I'm just so excited about this game coming up right now. We get to see another new top lane pick for the tournament with Looper's Rise, and we get to see SKT with a very strong mid lane AD carry duo that they power picked early, but still questionable initiation for them. I can't wait to see how this plays out.
And I really must stress that RNG was one of the last teams to adapt to the top lane meta. They should be very comfortable playing Mages top. I mean, along with WE, they were still playing the Lissandra later into the, season. They were also playing the Quinn a lot as well. So this is something that the team, even though they haven't played at this tournament, very practiced at.
And this is also another thing that I thought we would see more of coming into this tournament. I actually expected to see it from Darshan, because we knew Maokai was S tier. Echo weren't 100% sure about his power level, but it's still very high. But beyond that, those Poppy nerfs were big. And I actually thought that you'd have the window to do other potential carry top laners coming to the top lane. But then as the group stage proceeded, I thought, I guess not. I guess these guys are totally committed to the tourney meta. But in the time off, RNG is attacking that champion pool in the top lane and trying to come up with new stuff.
And it's why we love best of 5s. Best of 1, sure, that's a huge risk to take. Best of 5, do it a game. If it doesn't work out, throw this strategy out the window, go back to standard.
We're going to see as the standard situation is, it's going to be a lane swap here. Duke leashing in for his jungler Blank. Similar situation now as Looper is kind of hovering around the top side of the map. Actually, no one's around him.
And Looper knew this was kind of going to be a lane swap. He went up there to see if he could get CS. However, with Mana Crystal and Turret Gold, you do get tier. So you can start stacking relatively early. It doesn't hurt Rise as much as it used to hurt him.
Yeah, not starting with the double jungle, though, is non-ideal for RNG. Last game, they had a tremendous start because SKT was forced to teleport to get into their optimal start. This time, Looper very slow on the help of MLXG, which means MLXG had to take a lot of damage, and Looper was unable to share experience on any of the early camps.
He starts to share a little bit now, and look at this in the mid lane. Xiaohu pushed around a bit by Faker. It's worth noting, Bang actually got to take Krugs and didn't miss any CS in the top lane, so he's actually on a perfect trajectory so far. Xiaohu's still getting poked around. Nice play by Faker. His mid lane, very, very tight.
And Faker has a combat summoner, so he should be treated as a person that can now win this lane. He has the exhaust if Xiaohu ever does go aggressive, so they definitely have to respect that. And in typical RNG fashion, we have a swap back.
Yes, we do. Wow, yeah, they push the wave in, and right away they want the Kalista to play against the Sivir. Wow. He got boots of speed and still stayed on the one potion.
And Elise walked away. Juke is recalling because they see the Rise solo in the lane. They're electing to stay.
They don't want this to happen. They don't want to give any extra experience to Looper after what happened last game. They want to make sure again. Duke is staying. But yeah, Duke early teleports down to just match the Rise 1v1. I know Crepo and Deficio have a very defined way of the way they want lane swaps to work. This is much different, but it's all about the experience on the top laners trying to be the priority.
Well, right now they're both level 2 and barely that. There is some more minions on the field for Looper to kill. Also, this lane will freeze. The way RNG have manipulated the waves, Looper can hide under his turret and make Duke overextend to fight for CS.
And they have double teleport advantage.
Yeah.
If they ever do reverse it, top lane is a huge ganking.
Yeah, and we talk about the Sivir Soraka wanting to shove in because they can get a bunch of health and mana generation from Spell Shield and Soraka heals. They're not allowed to do that anymore because they're down 2 teleports if they ever overextend.
Look at this Whoosh coming in. Nice little rend right there. Damage onto Wolf that he can't recover easily.
It gives RNG complete freedom to play as aggressive as they want in this lane.
And beyond that, all of a sudden, Blank cannot look proactive. He has to be the reactive jungle. You ever a first person in on this gank, teleport can come anywhere on the map. You know, the waves are already against you. You can't set up turret dives. Like, Blank now has to play reactive style League of Legends, and we know MLXG wants to be proactive.
And because of all these reasons, I completely disagree with SKT's decision to teleport Duke down into the bottom lane. I think they should have allowed RNG to swap back. They should have punished with 4 people in the lane to get the gank off as the standard punish could be, because they had the people in position to do so if they wanted to cut that off, but they decided not to try. They made the safe, non-risky play, which opted into a minor disadvantage, and I think that's a mistake.
Because the biggest thing, right, is Rise shoves in that lane. It's bouncing back. If you even threaten the dive, Rise has to teleport, because otherwise you just go for it. Then Rise is burning his teleport. All of a sudden, Duke walks back to his lane, and you're on completely even footing. It's just, as far as standard lane swap goes, RNG bucked the trend, but SKT's response was not the right one.
I think SKT fumbled, but I also think it's rooted in their philosophy coming into this tournament where they're not willing to take those risks. SKT hasn't picked initiation in hardly any of their team compositions, and they haven't really done any turret diving in the early game. So RNG was playing to those tendencies or just doing what they're used to doing in the LPL. Either way, it worked. Look at that gold lead.
And right now is the first potential risk right there. The bot lane, the one-on-one down there, Rise versus Poppy. The wave had just pushed back out, and that river was pink warded. There was no vision for Looper at all, but no one came down to punish this. He was able to kill a pink ward, shoving in a wave with no concern for Blank at all. And Elise in the early game, and there's no punish at all.
Well, Duke has just picked up 8 CS. Before that, he was like 15 CS behind. If you mis-execute that gank and 5 minions die to a turret, ooh, that's nice from Faker. That's horrible for the Poppy. So, you know, even though it's a risky play, it's still pretty high percentage out of Looper to be able to push out like that.
Yeah, and Looper is actually playing incredibly risky right here. He's gone tier first and still sat on a Mana Crystal. Sometimes you will see the top lane Rise go Catalyst first because it gives them a little bit more durability in the ganks. But based on the pressure advantage they have right now, he has so many wards in the river. 1 deep ward covering a jungle exit and 1 pink ward in the lane brush. It's really hard for SKT to get in position to stop that. And he also would have Xiaohu's teleport to protect him. So that's his safety in doing the risky build. All in all, this is actually a great early game for RNG.
Yeah, it certainly is. And the last place I want to hit on is the jungle because it has been greatly skewed. If you take something not Nidalee, Kindred, or Graves, you have a window to be stronger than them. That for Elise is levels 1 to 5 before they have their ultimates. For Lee Sin, it's on the level 6 to 9 when you have the execute presence. Right now, Blank has completely missed his window because of how the lanes have kind of been controlled and manipulated by this RNG squad.
450 gold already, the difference between MLXG and Blank, and neither of them have really even seen enemies.
Really impressive stuff. You can see the rest of these lanes close to equal. Faker, slight lead in his matchup. Well played by him. He blind picked the Azir. Counter picked by LeBlanc. Did just fine in that one. Bot lane pretty close as well. The duos 70 gold apart for the AD carries. Not a huge problem there. But yeah, 300 gold lead now for Looper. Duke is on the receiving end of a lot of punishment.
He's going to have to teleport again against the double TP comp.
Yeah, and the question will have to be, like, where is SKT going to get their advantages?
There's the play, the deep ward, and it's going to be Mata
Teleport
looking for
LeBlanc.
There's nowhere for this guy to go. Why even burn the flash? First blood coming in for Xiao, who does miss the chain. He cast it a bit too late.
Yeah, he actually chained before his flash, so it didn't extend far enough towards Bang. That could have been a double kill if they execute a little better, but that's the teleport. LeBlanc and Faker gets a minion wave. Will he try and punish as Xiao Hu goes through? Xiao Hu takes the safe path.
But once again, they see Duke teleport. What do? Straight away, they pull the trigger. They're going again.
Bang is alone without flash. Actually, an early Q by Mata anyway. Spell shield was still up. Either way, Bang does walk to safety. Nice attempt, but now Blank is coming. There are no flashes for the Royal Duo lane.
Yeah, this could work for SKT. Bang doesn't have much damage, and maybe the 2v2 could still be one for them, but he's going to be going for this rather risky gank.
Here's the attempt.
It's
no
hard for Bang to support this.
For the Chinese team's a big stun, and Amata gets a summoner heal and says, I have nowhere to go, but it's a turnaround by Woosh onto Bang. Can he out damage, and a great silence comes out. Wow! They do turn it around. Wolf and Blank to save the 2-on-2.
Yeah, beautiful silence. Yeah, it's a great timing for the gank. It was going to be close, but they were willing to take it, and the way that they were able to change the focus around and have Mata be so low at the start of the gank stopped him from being able to be safe.
Wow, flash slow from MLXG. Still wants to dive with the red spot.
Exhaust.
Oh, Wish comes through, and it's not going to be anything. MLXG pops Lamb's Respite, and he actually just gets out. Doesn't want to get outplayed by Faker, but he burns both summoners off of the SKT mid laner.
So in the end, really nice play out of MLXG. Both he and Faker burn the flash early, which I think is crucial in that gank. MLXG, if he ever wants to kill the Azir, and Faker, if he ever wants to live. But that gank in the top lane, one more time, I speak about it for Afro a lot. Blank just saved that lane. Like, he made the one risky play that they could make at that stage of the game for that lane to even remain equal, and was able to execute upon it. So that's a clutch play that you need out of SKT's jungle.
It absolutely saves the early game for them. And I also think it was RNG playing a little bit too confident. It was one of those instinct things, but I mean, Wolf just straight up walked back from base and made it back in time. So if they were paying attention to the death timers, they would have been able to avoid that. Either way, it pulls SKT even.
And Faker looking to make it more than equal. Going in for Xiao Hu. One more attack will do it, and he gets it. The solo kill in the mid lane. 1-0 for Faker.
That is huge. That was with all summoners down, so he wasn't even advantaged with the exhaust right there, but I think it was Xiao Hu probably staying a little bit too long in the lane. I didn't get to see the very start of that one, but that's the way SKT fights back. Blank makes a play, and Faker gets a solo kill.
And even despite that, SKT are basically only equal in gold. MLXG is heavily out farming, so is Looper. Just kind of like the last game, those are the players that the Chinese squad are using to leverage a lead. MLXG stealing the Krugs from Duke away as well, who's trying to get some jungling done as his turret's going down. We will see a turret swap overall as SKT's dual lanes on the bot side and Royals is up top. And Blank soloing a dragon means slightly, maybe, SKT with these sets of choices.
But this time, SKT have their win condition. They have a huge team fighting composition with Faker, a kill and 25 CSR. All of a sudden, they can start controlling around that mid lane. You see an effective turret swap right now. So they have at least got through this rough early game patch with a couple of good outplays that have kept them even for long enough.
Yeah, SKT being even is all they really need here at this point. As you mentioned, their late game's going to be great. After the Faker kill again, Xiao Hu just low.
Yeah, Xiao Hu at half health, and he's not able to get away from the Emperor's Divide, so really just not respecting Faker's close range right there. That's a time Xiao Hu couldn't have been there.
That was...
Yeah, right into Soraka silence too.
Up. This is bad for him. And exhaust might not mean enough. Mata comes in for some stats, and it does mean Xiaohu barely lives.
So what I was going to say is that it was actually Xiaohu being aggressive. Then I saw him do it again. Double distorting a minion wave against someone that can follow you, i.e. a Fizz, i.e. something like a Morgana, is actually really, really dangerous. So he's done it twice now in about 2 minutes, and that's not really great against Nazir.
Yeah, they're going to be losing this mid lane turret. So SKT playing around their advantage lane right there, but Looper trying to go for Bang.
The risk of it means that Spell Shield and the Sivir ulti comes out, because the risk of a Flash Rune Prison would have been his death. So early Spell Shield, but it still might mean that turret, and it does. SKT 3 turrets to 1 now. They beat mid and that top lane.
Huge. They're getting the wave clear advantage with their 2 early picks there of Azir and Sivir. The Kalista, pre-Hurricane, and LeBlanc, who's disadvantaged in lane, cannot keep up with this whatsoever. So definitely nice of SKT getting those ganks in to regain the pressure in some of these lanes, and now they're making their lead work.
Because, like, let's just state it, Looper's going to be more effective than Duke, probably, in these team fights. The Kindred is way over Elise in team fights. Their win conditions are around the Sivir and the Azir. So the fact that they are the 2 people ahead on SKT's side is massive. But the discrepancy on the other side of the map is equally as big for RNG. And the thing about early turrets is they should be equalized if you run double teleport. There should be situations in this game where RNG are able to open up that map and chip down turrets. So they have a gold lead now, and they need to start utilizing it.
I do say Xiaohu is getting pressured more on LeBlanc this game than I've seen him get pressured all tournament. He's been dominant against pretty much everyone. But a few mistakes against Faker, and also the fact that he's against Faker, who's having a much better Azir game than he did in the group stage. It's making him struggle.
A relevant stat for this, actually, I was told there have been 29 solo kills pre-15 in this tournament. This is the first time Faker's gotten one of them. Finally having a good early laning phase for himself, at MSI specifically. And for the flash up onto Blank. They really want to knock down this Elise, who flashes to the left-hand side toward Faker. Here comes Looper. Here comes the teleport from Duke. And it's going to be an assassination. MLXG goes down. Mata forced to be pulled back. Bang on the wings. Wolf near there as well. Attack on the side. A great knockback from Faker. Buys the time. A huge knockup as well. And they're going to start picking up kills. Bang gets one. A second as well as Whoosh goes down. Xiaohu forced to run away from Duke. Looper also falling. That is 4 kills for SKT with only 1 in return.
Blank going back in. The surprise damage on MLXG. MLXG can't get down his Kindred ultimate. Then RNG's all-in style bites them right there. And SKT's very easily able to turn that fight around. Great fight for SKT. Big lead in the early game.
They play towards the right side of the screen and then chase left. They actually had the team fight cut in 2, but by overcommitting onto Faker's Azir, they open up the back end of that team fight for everyone else to collapse onto the carries. That's an overreach from RMG. We're not used to seeing this. Their teamfight execution is always crisp.
Yeah, and if we talk about the way SKT would win games versus the way RNG would win games, SKT will win when they punish RNG for overreaching. That's how they've been playing most of their plays, outside of a few early game successes they had here with the Faker solo kill and the Blank gank. That's more of the fight we'd expect SKT to win coming into the series. Bad recall spot.
MLXG spots him exhausted, gets away from the root, flash to chase, and the Wolf takes him down. Team kill right there. Wolf kills Wolf. MLXG takes the jungle.
All right. This is something that SKT has done more in this tournament than I have ever seen in the past. Recalling in really silly situations. Faker's being caught out twice. Wolf there as well. Walk back deeper into your jungle. Or set down an aggressive ward as they walk over it. At least give yourself time to be able to back away.
Also, if I'm not mistaken, that was the ward that was teleported in on in the prior fight. So, like, Wolf knew he was very close to being in vision, if not completely in vision. Yeah, that is the ward that was still up from the prior fight where Wolf was recalling next to. But yeah, they teleport in. I guess they thought the teleport would zone off Wolf, but RNG could have followed up towards the tri-brush and executed that dive. Instead, they pull over to the left. MLXG gets bursted down, and then Matas still goes through, further committing onto Faker, allowing Bang and Wolf to just free hit from the backside.
And look at this. Xiaohu came from the right-hand side. Looper and Xiaohu can absolutely decimate Wolf and Bang in that 2v2. Yeah. But Xiaohu, little bit of miscommunication, overreaches to try and kill the Azir, and the pinch just doesn't work out.
They even could have teleported to the same ward and just one-shot the backline by themselves. Pull a CLG-type move right there, top and mid coming up. Didn't happen there. And it's going to be SKT farther ahead now. Great pickup. Down goes the Rift Herald, given over to Blank. Still a sizable lead here. 3,000 up, fighting for the blue buff. And a big knockback on a 2. That's bad for
for MLXG. Pop slams just fight. Mata's going to come into this one as well, but Faker has so much time to deal the damage. A great tackle from Duke means a kill on the RNG jungler. Looper now running, slowed down by Wolf. The kill goes over to Blank, 2 for 0 with the blue steal.
And Faker's playing like a man possessed right now. These Azir initiations are incredible. We thought SKT was a little bit low on initiation, but Faker's just making it work. As soon as he sees a small opening with the numbers advantage, he's going for it. That was a fantastic Emperor's Divide and an even bigger advantage for SKT.
And you're behind RNG. Stop overreaching for little objectives. I mean, bleed dragons, give up a blue buff, but try and get pace of the game back by spreading people out, not letting this Siva Azir, you know, the team fighting prowess of the Poppy to come out. Instead, they just keep going for the fights. And Faker, as you said, he's just going in time and time again, gets a two-man scoop here, and Looper can never get into the fight.
Yeah, and it's into the Soraka silence, which is an amazing synergy that SKT's been able to pull off now. Both times they've played Soraka with Azir. And then at this point, Looper was just way in over his head and dies once again.
Quick reaction by Bang as well. Spell shields in case the skill would have landed. And beautiful stuff here. So, a highly paced game working well, and SKT trying to really turn this cruise here. Second item, Banner of Command coming out from Blank to try to keep the pressure on as fast as he can. The only wave clear that RNG can now use is their jungler and AD carry. Now looking for more to do. Oh, that tackle lands on Amatsa. Nowhere for Braum to go. Oh, just kidding. Fate's called out, and he's going to be sent away. Whoosh is going to lose his life for this one. It saves Mata. What a nice AD carry supporting his support.
Yeah, good guy Whoosh there. Little bit on Banner that you were mentioning. Ryze, LeBlanc, the two people with teleport, there's no way you kill that minion. It lives forever. Kalista is way too short range. MLXG is way too short range as well.
Yeah, this is SKT snowballing this game in a very good fashion. I mean, the time of game for SKT on average was very long in the group stage, but that's because they lose slow. They win fast. So they're trying to do that right here.
And look at this. Under 19 minutes onto the inhibitor already. It's at half health. They will get pushed out. And in fact, it's Xiao teleporting on the flank. This is a fight that RNG needs to win. The flash route gets on the Bang, who doesn't take any damage at all thanks to Wolf. Matza dies for it. Duke in the front line, tanky enough. Looper's dead as well. SKT will not be refrained, pushing forward. MLXG takes a heal from Whoosh to run away faster, but now that's Whoosh himself getting caught out. Lamb's just fight, gets him some health. Actually does nothing at all for RNG. It's a wasted ulti, and SKT inside the base. Inhibitor dead before 20 minutes, and they're staying inside. It's 5 versus 3. A Nexus turret going down sub 20.
They have the Soraka push right now, so they can sustain through this, and they're just continually pushing them back in a base to buy time for the turret.
And the Sivir ulti to disengage. SKT don't bite off more than they can chew. What an immaculate push by them.
Yeah, perfect understanding. They know that Looper's not available. They have to make the play again. Here comes Looper.
Yeah, I mean, you either let SKT starve you out, or you go for the big play.
You have to go right now.
But the big plays just haven't worked. He can't. The rest of his team isn't close enough behind SKT, and he's on a pink ward, so it would be suicide.
Unless they
maybe they're feeling like it.
Straggling out.
Oh
Duke gets in a fog of war. Nice cocoon. Now Bangs in front, and this is the high spell shield. You can't even try for this one, Xiaohu.
Great. This is actually what you expect out of SKT. They just keep running. No one's lazy. No one recalls in a bad position this time. Everyone gets back. They're chasing them up a super creep wave as well. So SKT finally executing in the early game, and they just smash it.
That's the team that everyone predicted would be the #1 squad at this tournament, and SKT looks like this.
And look at it. It's an overreach one more time. Xiaohu goes for the teleport play, but there's an Azir turret that they should have known about, and Mata just keeps diving past. Once again, it's actually Duke with better teleport positioning this time, and Xiaohu doesn't hit anyone in this team fight.
And we got to see it a little bit here, but Soraka is also a great pick into Ryze, because as soon as he goes to machine gun someone down, you can put the silence field directly on him and just completely stuff his damage. SKT playing this game extremely well after some early missteps, but what a performance it's been from about minute 6 till now.
And a time for Baron as well. They are not letting up at all. SKT playing high-paced. MLXG is over the wall.
It would have been stealable if he had Smite.
Maybe so. MLXG now has to run away from Faker, who wants an exhaust is on. And now the re-engage out onto us. Duke forced a flash away from Baron, but MLXG is dead. His ulti wasn't available. And now the knockout for Duke to buy time for his team. Exhausted a Looper, and that top laner might just die. He's limping away. The tackle from Duke nearly picks him off, but it's Mata stuck in the front line. Down goes Braum. 5 versus 3. The chase still on for SKT.
They might get a blue buff. They might disengage. They might turn back for Baron.
Yeah, I mean, nobody died. I'm surprised they decided to continue the chase through instead of just turning immediately back onto Baron, but I don't think it'll matter at the end of the day. Azir Soraka able to just sustain back up and still kill the Baron at an alarmingly fast rate. SKT in absolute control of Game 2.
And once again, RNG, they can't even send anyone there. They've only got one Nexus turret left that had a super creep wave on there. I mean, they keep committing to that. SKT just win the game. So, you know, they give up the Baron buff and they're 10,000 gold behind. And this is just all started because, you know, SKT, they're not willing to take the risk. They peel up. Faker goes and deals with MLXG, even though he doesn't have Smite. And everyone else just plays their role perfectly.
Get away from the Baron pit, wait for it to come back in, and buy time for Lupa to get re-engaged upon.
And this top lane Ryze is being completely shut down. You saw when he tried to run in right there, the instant he tried to pop in for his spell combo, Soraka silence. He chased through. That's when SKT goes to layer their CC. So the Soraka was a pick that Wolf didn't have coming into this tournament, and Wolf actually isn't having the greatest of tournaments, but his Soraka play in this game in particular has been top-notch.
And here comes the rest of it. Into the mid lane they go. Bot lane inhibitor still dead. It died 3 minutes ago or so. The fastest that we've ever seen a Nexus turret die happen as well earlier on. They're looking for number 2 here. Baron up, banner, cannon, minions still on the field. And let's see what's next for SKT. It's going to be the top lane. That wave was already well manicured thanks to Duke and the rest of his squad. And this will be inhibitor number 3.
RNG isn't going to be lasting long here. This is going to be inhibitor number 3 with 5 people. And that's actually because no one can kill the banner minion. Going to be the end of the game.
In they go. MLXG low on health. Can't pop the lambs just fighting time. Down he goes. Great by Blank. And all the kills are coming through. 4 already. Make that 5. It's a slaughter. It's a beautiful win for Korea's SK Telecom T1 to tie up the series.
They smashed RNG in that game. That was absolute decimation of the Chinese squad.
Yeah. This is the fastest time someone has beaten RNG in with a 23-minute, 32-second victory. And also, it may have taken 12 games, but the SKT people expected to show to MSI are finally here.
They punish every mistake that RNG makes. The overreaches now no longer working. And you know, RNG got the early game they were looking for. 40 CS on their jungler. Still 40 up on their top laner as well. And SKT were like, we don't care. We have Azir Sivir. Like, why would you give us this lineup?
Yeah, absolute decimation from SKT here. But this is the beauty that we keep coming back to of best of 5s. RNG doesn't have to keep Maokai and Alistar bans because those are their champions just as much as they are SKT's champions. The complexion of the pick and ban phase can change drastically in Game 3. And after this result, it will.
This is going to be so much fun. They'll stay on the same sides, but seeing Faker play that well is going to be pretty heartening. Had a good Game 1, even though SKT lost. Had a great Game 2, and was one of the major reasons they won. And that is a full power SKT. And the games keep looking like that, it's scary.
The biggest thing, right, is winning a game 22 minutes. That's great. Unlocking the Azir pick that we thought he could not blind pick in the second rotation because of how good Xiaohu's LeBlanc is. Even more valuable in a best of 5 series, in my opinion, because it's not going to win you one game. It's going to win you the set if he keeps playing that way.
Because much like they baited the Poppy pick to go up against Trundle in Game 1, I almost feel like they were baiting the Azir pick with the first pick Ryze. Faker thinking, yeah, I'll play Azir into Ryze, no problem. Guess what? We're going to throw the Blanc at you. But he took it completely in stride, popped in the exhaust, solo killed him, and completely crushed the game. So Faker did not allow them to play that game.
And it was really good by SKT. Their pick ban phase did change. World did the same because they won. Why wouldn't you do the same plan here? But SKT changing it up, get rid of the Nidalee, wait on that Poppy pick. We understand there's this counter matchup thing going on here. Let's unlock the Azir for ourselves, and that went beautifully. So a good win for them. 1-1 this series. It's going to be probably continually amazing in this best of 5. And you know what? If the analysts are ready, we'd love to toss it to them to break that game down a little bit more. And when that does happen, we'll hear their thoughts. Looks like they're not ready, so we get to talk a bit more. That'll be great. No, it is.
Hey, we are very ready for you.
I was about to signal just like
yeah, they're right over there. No, we're very ready to talk about this game. Whoa, SKT. I mean, that was pretty fast. What happened there?
RNG went on vacation.
That wasn't even good.
All right, cool. Now that we got that out of the way.
Out of the system.
For realsies this time.
Great adaptation and pick and bans from SKT. First of all, they understand that they're trying to target trying to target Duke, so like, save his pick for last, you know? Wait and see what happens. Their Azir pick as well here is so good because we knew Sivir was going to be locked in by SKT when we saw the 280 carry bans.
Right.
Then the Azir comes in because they see Ryze. Now, obviously that's a matchup we've seen quite a few times. They expected it to be Ryze mid lane at this point. So when they then take Elise with the Azir, they can actually match the early game. Ryze only wins the lane, same for LeBlanc, if they can all in. It's very hard to all in when there's an early jungler who can fight for river control and also match the Kindred early game. And that actually allows Faker to play much more aggressive in lane and win the lane.
It also meant that Duke and Wolf in particular could bring a lot more utility to these fights, where if it's close fights and you don't always have to run, you can play a little closer. And Wolf had some really, really awesome silence fields for me. Every time Xiaohu either went in, he got silenced, then Duke tried to pin him into a wall. They were working together right now because they weren't as far behind as they were in game one, and they could actually use the champions to their full benefit. Obviously, the fight that was very eagerly engaged by RNG later on kind of gave him the game as well. But they played a lot better. And Faker, for me, the change from week 1 to week 2 is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, the individual improvements in this game were definitely there for Faker and for Blank. But also, what is really interesting to me is how SKT are so wholly focused on the team overall and the team fight that they're willing to just have Duke and you say, you know what?
Yeah, you go for it, man.
Go ahead and take that, Poppy, because we're going to have a tank. They basically set up a raid group. We have our main tank. He's going to be a full tank. We have our 2 DPS. We actually even have a healer in this one. and then we're just going to play our team fights, and we're going to do them well. And Duke, sorry if you're going to lose that 1v1. You have to fight Ryze as Poppy. That's not fun, but he's going to take one for the team.
At least this time they got the lane swap off. Yes, RNG match, but it cost them a lot of momentum there, and that just got Duke through the early levels decently well. Then he went to lane. He got like, 10, 20 CS down, but with good river control this time, as Deficio pointed out earlier, they managed to survive, and then obviously strength in numbers. They played around the LeBlanc very well. Xiaohu was never allowed to really go for his signature flanks, and honestly, he got 1v1 in the mid lane at once too.
But Deficio, I want to talk about this lane swap, because RNG does something that's very different from what any other team does.
Right.
It's a half lane swap, because the turret doesn't actually go down.
It's a lane swap, so it started originally when they wanted to dodge around strong level 1 and level 2 compositions or combos in the bot lane in terms of 2v2. It is now evolved into just one of their preferred ways to actually lane swap full out, where they
lane swap pull out.
Basically, they fast push the bot lane at first, and as soon as it hits the tower, they just instant recall with both Mata and Whoosh, and then they rush to top lane. So the goal is that they get all the minions when pushing in, and they still manage to catch some of the minions where the other team has pushed them into tower. Okay. Now there's a lot of risk involved, and the problem also in this game and them swapping into 2v2 is that actually they lose the 2v2 in terms of push. And we talked about the mid lane, how LeBlanc needs to have the vision control to all in. But when you lose the top lane 2v2, you lose the river. That means Elise can set up the vision in the river. That means Faker is safe. And then also this TP LeBlanc, because you thought it was going to be like more of a scaling matchup in a sense, or that he was going to run cleanse and therefore he couldn't run ignite, and that's when it goes wrong.
Yeah, so ultimately SKT has some decent control over the early game, and now I want to jump forward to that fight you were mentioning, Crepo, where RNG kind of eagerly engages and they lose it only 14 minutes into the game. That's not quite it.
They lost before they even got in.
Here it is.
We're in the fight right now. Malta has already flashed in and gone for an aggressive pickoff, but I feel like RNG forget that they're playing against Elise. Blank does a really good job buying a lot of time, and then suddenly Kindred drops in one sweep combo.
Yeah, this is purely just a mistake from Kindred here, and this is something we have not been used to seeing. MLXD, he waits around on the edge of the rappel so that Elise can drop on him, get the execute, plus Faker finishes off with an easy kill. And as you said, Blank buys more time with rappel than Kindred would be able to with Kindred Ultimate in this one.
And then the TP from Duke actually was a little late still, so SKT is still working on that problem. At least he's TPing into good fights now instead of horrible TPs in game 1, so we're seeing progression there. But yeah, RNG, they're very decisive, and when Mata calls somebody, they go ham for him, but that was almost too much. Flash to get a better angle on the Brahma ulti, then get back out. Xiaohu couldn't enter that fight. Blank did a fantastic job buying time, but even if he dies a little sooner, I feel like that was a bad fight.
To be fair, if you're RNG and you say, let's not take the fight, let's try and maybe wait for next one, you look at SKT's composition with the Azir sitting there, you're like, we don't actually want to go late game against Azir, Soraka, and Sivir and take these team fights. So they were kind of like, we need to try. Right. Maybe there's only 10% chance it works. If it does, we're back in the game. If not, well, the game ends in 22 minutes.
Yeah, they lost the fight not for lack of commitment or anything like that. Yeah, never on the side of effort. But with the series tied up 1-1, we need to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, though. Game 3 is coming your way in just a few minutes. We'll be right back.
Mid-Season Invitational 2016 Semifinals. Game 1 went to China's Royal Never Give Up. Korea's SK Telecom T1 looking to turn this best-of-5 around as the coaches shake hands.
Chinese team's a big stun, and Amata gets a summoner heal and says, I have nowhere to go. But it's a Whoosh on the bank. Can he out-damage, and a great silence comes out. Wow! Oh, Mata forced to be pulled back. Bang on the wings. Wolf near there as well. Attack on the side. A great knockback from Faker. Buys the time. A huge knockup as well. And they're going to start picking up kills. Bang gets one.
자, 사이. 나 루퍼.
And all the kills are coming through 4 already. Make that 5. It's a slaughter. It's a beautiful win for Korea's SK Telecom T1 to tie up the series.
Welcome back to the Shanghai Oriental Sports Center, home of the 2016 Mid-Season Invitational, as we are currently 1-1 into our semifinal between RNG and SKT, but I'm joined by some familiar faces, Darshan and Afromu, ahead of CLG's semifinal tomorrow. We, of course, haven't talked to you guys now in a while. You've had time to regroup after that hectic but fantastic for you guys group stage. What's the level of excitement, preparation, and everything like ahead of the big day, Afro? Or Darshan?
Darshan, take it, dude. I'm always extremely excited to play, and it's going to be such an amazing match here at MSI. I've never made it so far in an international tournament. We've never had such a big opportunity to prove ourselves to everyone and ourselves. So it's probably the match I'll be the most excited for in my life.
Yeah, you talk about proving yourself. In the beginning, it was all, what will CLG do? Will they show up? And now it's totally the different way around. You guys are favorites tomorrow in that match. So how are you kind of controlling your confidence, possibly overconfidence level, also knowing that you're now going into best of fives instead of best of ones and everything will be different?
I think we've shown that we're pretty good in a best of 5 series from our past playoff performance as well as summer split last season. And going into that, even though we are the favorites, we're not really paying attention to that too much. We're here to win and not really trying to get caught up in all the hype.
All right. Of course, if you're able to beat the Flash Wolves tomorrow, that would put you in the final. Now we're seeing your possible opponents then. RNG versus SKT, now all square at 1-1. How do you think the series are going to evolve, Darshan?
Playing against both teams, I think SKT is the better team on stage. RNG, how they play in scrims and how they play on stage is very similar because they play very fearless. They're not afraid to go in, but it's also their downfall. They go in too far, they engage when they don't need to engage, and they lose the game off that a lot. SKT is a lot more calculated, in my opinion. They take a lot less risks, but they play a lot smarter, I think.
All right, Afro.
I would have to agree with Darshan. And,
Great synergy.
I think SKT is going to take the series. It's probably going to be 3-2, really close. And I was surprised by the first game, how it went, and then the second game was a turnaround stomp by SKT. So that was also surprising. But I'm glad Wolf is picking Soraka, and he's doing not too bad.
There we go. Well, thank you guys very much. Lovely to check in with you guys ahead of the big game tomorrow from CLG. Confident but not overconfident. And now we're going to dive into Game 3 with our casters here, SKT versus RNG.
Thank you very much, Jox. And you heard it from CLG themselves. They actually thought SKT is the better team. Overall, analyst estimated 2-1 in favor of SKT as well. And with a game like that, you kind of feel like SKT is a pretty damn strong team.
And Darshan just saying what we've been saying pretty much this whole time. RNG's biggest strength is also their greatest downfall, the fact that they can play fearlessly. And SKT tries to do calculated aggression and calculated absorption of RNG's aggression, and that's really how the series is going to play out.
And I think SKT's biggest strengths, I mean, they have a lot of strengths, is when they actually know they can finish a game, they are like on point with it. Like in 2 seconds, they will take their lead and like snowball it quicker than any team I think we've ever seen in League of Legends. So I think that is something that RNG really cannot do. It's something that they've struggled with all tournament long. SKT never give you that window back into the game.
I mean, if Royal could close games out like SKT did, they'd be 10-0 heading into this part of the bracket because their 2 losses were 2 huge comeback losses where they didn't close the game out properly.
I do have to say, though, that it's funny. In the close games, RNG was undefeated. It's in the games where they were winning by a fair bit that they were able to get come back on. And yeah, I was also surprised to see everyone be like, I'm glad he's playing Soraka. It's like, do you like winning? You don't want other people to play Soraka because it's your secret pick coming into this tournament. But Wolf has been able to adapt to it. And I'd actually expect a Soraka ban coming into this game in place of either the Alistair or the Maokai, and I think that will have ripple effects into the rest of the ban phase, and I'm really curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I guess it depends what your strategy is, right? Do you continue to take double teleport and hope they play the shove-up game? Because you have to remember that even though things went awry, they got a free kill onto the Soraka. If they just reset that lane, they go up by 1 kill. Instead, they gave 2 back. So that was RNG overreaching. So I don't necessarily agree. I still think you can attack Soraka if she's with Sivir in a pushing, but that requires RNG to be disciplined. After absolutely taking out SKT in game 1, you saw that they lapsed a little bit in that regard, and SKT just punished them so much.
Asking RNG to be disciplined is like asking gravity to turn off. It requires some pretty serious technology. I want to talk about a player real quick, though. I want to talk about Faker. Because Faker went off so hard that previous game. He did 22,000 damage to champions last game versus 4,400 from the counter pick mid laner of LeBlanc.
In a 23-minute game. Like, damage dealt to champions goes up almost exponentially as the game extends in time. And the fact that this was a 23-minute game and Faker did nearly 1,000 damage per minute is insane.
Let's go beyond that. The fact that he won the counter matchup, like, pretty much single-handedly, I mean, no summoner spells on anyone, still manages to get the solo kill. That should not happen if you're Xiaohu. So I just think that, you know, Faker, Xiaohu's thrown the gauntlet at him maybe 1 too many times, and you can only poke God so much before he comes back.
And keep in mind, like, as we talk about the context of that solo kill, like, yes, there was some, you know, junglers coming in at some point, but this was after MLXG burned both the Faker summoners, and then Faker still just goes and takes down Xiaohu afterwards. Like, definitely some really good play by him. And this is now the concern is, look, SKT were the ones that banned Azir in game 1. They let it go up, and then they took it first round red side. This is the kind of situation where this is why you pick red side, is you get those 2 picks on that first round before blue side gets to react to you again. And if you're locking up first picking Nidalee, or you're locking up first picking the Rise, well, Faker's Azir comes through. And you have to, again, change up your strategy as Royal and get some of these high-profile champions off players like Faker.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see the ripple effects of the pick and ban phase here, because even though RNG has been playing blue side, their strategy has actually been to bait in the counter pick, so to speak. They starve the top lane to pick the counter pick Trundle, or they early lock Azir and swap the lanes after they already see Fakers. So it's been a very unique take on the way to do pick and ban.
Yeah, so maybe too cute. Like, the fact that you're willing to swap the Rise around in a meta where we've seen him pretty much solo be a mid laner, like, it's one of those times where maybe they thought themselves into a deficit, because Rise definitely has to scale, definitely has to hit a couple of items, and is exposed in a longer lane.
Well, we'll see what that matchup ends up being like in game 3, but as we get ourselves into that game, we want to first hear from Koma about SKT's
pressure coming into this one?
일단 한국에서는 뭐 저희가 전승 우승할 거다, 뭐 그냥 쉽게 이길 거다 이런 식으로 너무 많이들 이야기하셔가지고 너무 큰 부담이 됐어요. 한 판 한 판 이기기가 되게 힘들 거라고 생각하고 왔었는데 한국 같은 경우에 이제 너무 그런 게 부담감이 너무 심해서 그게 좀 가장 힘들었었던 것 같습니다.
And I know coming into this matchup as well, the interview with SKT after they won the spring split in Korea was we want to prove that Tigers are the second best team in the world. We want to prove that Korea is so dominant that there's no question that the team that we beat 3-1 coming into this is right beneath us.
Well, if they have 5 more games like the one they just had, I think they would prove that fact. But from what we've seen so far, they have definitely not proven that fact. And it looks like a lot of these other teams are playing a lot more fearless against SKT, which was unlike the way we've seen teams play against Korean teams in international events before.
And that's the biggest thing for me. I mean, Worlds last year, you have to respect these teams, but you also have to play against them fearlessly like you can beat them. I feel like North America, as well as the Chinese regions, felt like they went back into themselves and really didn't play their style of gameplay. This time around at MSI, both of them are just going pretty hard at the Korean lineup, and it's come out with a couple of wins so far.
And I respect that. I like that. It's the mantra that CLG used coming in. Respect them all, of course, but don't fear any of them, right? Come in and make sure you're able to take care of business. Play your style of League of Legends. And I am kind of glad that these teams are still sort of playing their style. SKT have found what that control style is yet again. Royal still playing very aggressively, which is very fun to watch, of course.
Yeah, well, I thought the ban phase would change with Maokai and Alistair maybe being dropped, but not the case for RNG. Maybe they just change around their first pick and they actually ban Rise, which maybe means they'd want to first pick Azir.
Depends on what else you think might be contested. I do think Azir would be a good first pick. Again, I don't really like Blank's Nidalee that much, and now they've got to decide, do they want to ban it away, or do they actually like the champion after all? They'd give away Sivir, but that's not the worst thing in the world.
The other thing is a pinch on Whoosh actually worked last game. He was nearly rendered ineffective on the Kalista, so I respect the fact that they stick with that and still take away 280 carries.
Yeah, which would mean that the Sivir would come immediately in this rotation, but the question will be what they put it with. This time, because the third top lane ban was dropped, they can actually just go for the Echoes, so SKT is actually very comfortable with this trade.
They are. In saying that, I really do think that Sivir suffers against Azir, because Azir does in a team fight what Sivir hates, and that is create a divide between tanks and backline threats. And I really do think that, like, every single game I watch this happen, if the Azir is played well, which we know Xiaohu can do, it limits that damage so much from Bang.
And now we get to see how much these teams think the early game matters, because we knew coming into the tournament, look, the top tier list is Nidalee and the 2 marksman junglers and the Graves and the Kindred. Last game, SKT said, we could play Graves, but you know what? We just rather get ourselves the Elise, get the early game pressure. You would actually see in Royal also hovering Elise in this champ select and maybe switching the style.
And I really like this comp out of RNG. They play it a lot. Normally, you have an 80 carry for consistent damage and a mid laner for burst. This time around, they actually have initiation out of the 80 carry and consistent damage out of the mid laner. It also means that Whoosh gets to set up behind that wall like a sniper would and just take people out.
Yeah, because if we watch the way he played Jhin when he played it against SKT, it was using Curtain Call at the beginning of fights. They also did have Alistair, though, to capitalize on the slows that he was able to put out. That is, of course, banned this game. And what is not banned is the Soraka, which we may see for a 3rd game in a row from Wolf.
And it's been good, right? The Soraka just continues to put pressure in situations where you don't expect. This time it's not going to be paired with an Azir where you can scoop people into the silence field. But it's just such an annoying ability to deal with, because sometimes you don't even realize that you've been silenced. Like, you just continue to run forward. It really does mess up a lot of combos.
Soraka Graves still grabbed up here, and it is SKT going back to a marksman jungler here, so the Elise not going to come through. Their comp is going to fit that pretty well. They will get a very delayed mid lane.
Whoa, they're going for Leona.
Oh, Elise, Leona, the last few pickups. It is hard engage.
And we mentioned the only time you're going to see this is if Alistair is banned, and you must have hard engage. I mean, picking up the Elise means that they really do need it, so a Leona pick. That's a kill lane.
It is for sure a kill lane, but if they can't get the aggression, like, it can be really difficult for Leona to chain the CC properly on a Soraka, because she can put silence on herself as your Zenith blading towards, and then Leona can't chain the stun, and Soraka can just walk away.
I agree. Once again, if you take this bottom lane in an isolation, I agree, but when you put into effect that they go Elise as the early game jungler, it really isn't that easy to walk out if you're Wolf.
I mean, I do have to credit RNG for their innovation in this pick and ban phase. First team to do the they switched to the Trundle top after banning out 2 top laners and giving the other one away. First team to play Leona here. Also tried to go for the top lane rise even though it didn't work. I think we're still in for a great series.
And Faker, of course, with his second Fizz game, it didn't work out in the first one of the series, lost his game to a LeBlanc, even though he played well. Now he is Fizz into Azir. Faker won Azir versus Assassin in game 2. Now it's Xiaohu's turn to play that same sort of matchup, but it's Fizz instead of LeBlanc, and it's going to be a very interesting one. And if you guys at home think it's going to be great, then let us know who it's going to be. Hashtag RNG win, hashtag SKT win to @LL Esports. Let us know. 1-1 in this best of 5, and this is now the time to get yourself set up for match point.
And it's funny because SKT comp looks awfully similar to an RNG comp this time around. They need to create chaos on that backline for Jhin to be able to take out the carries, whereas arguably RNG want to kite back until Leona has a perfect engage moment.
Yeah, or RNG is just going to be going super hard, super early, but it's going to be difficult when you're dealing with double teleport. Like, how is RNG going to play that Leona lane aggressively when a Fizz and an Echo can teleport in?
Yeah, that's why you can't go aggressive, because if you ever do that, Jhin dies. Like, if Mata ever goes without seeing the Fizz in front of him first up, you sacrifice your AD carry.
And the more we talk about this, if you're assuming flawless play from both teams, the Leona pick won't work in the laning phase. What it could work for is if they swap it and Leona outroams Soraka, or if we see SKT burning their teleport unnecessarily to unlock the aggression of Leona. It is a big risk for them to be picking it into double TP as well as into a Soraka.
And pressure on MLXG. We mentioned it last game for Blank. He was able to step up and definitely had the impact on Elise that we were looking for. This time, MLXG picks it up, needs to have a similar performance because, I mean, we've seen Infinity Edges and crazy stuff come out of Graves' jungle right now. The guy does damage late game that Elise will never hope to replicate.
That's going to be the risk then, is how far will this game go? Does Graves hit that spike? SKT won their game in 24 minutes, and it never mattered if Elise was going to get outscaled against a marksman jungle. Devour definitely never got stacked all the way up.
And they want 2v2 lanes, Jack. They spot out the Soraka, and immediately they go down to match the lanes. They want to kill Wolf.
Yeah, and it's going to be really fun to watch here because a lot of it will have to do with MLXG's first jungle pathing and how well SKT can ward with it, combined with what type of pressure RNG has in the solo lanes for whether or not SKT could match the teleports to stop it, because there are potentially more people that can arrive bottom lane for SKT.
They gave solo experience over to the Leona.
Yes.
They're hoping for an early level 2. They want to go in.
Now, SKT could see that Leona has 1 CS and know that she will hit the level early. I forget exactly which minion it is, but it will not be all 3 melees in the second wave. It'll be before that.
But look at all the harass they're able to get down right away. Leona's nothing at level 1. Trying to heal off with the Targon stacks, but doesn't get level 2 off that minion.
She'll have to burn several potions here. It'll be in the middle of this wave. I think minion number 2, when she'll have both skills.
It's so telegraphed what they want to do. And Wolf gets
They get on the Wolf, exhaust on a whoosh, Ignite is on. Do they have the damage? That answer is no.
Bang takes some damage back, and Mata slowed down, counterattacked, and he's now low on health.
Counterattack successful, I'd have to say. There's still the heal on Bang, and Mata cannot sustain back up.
Yeah, summon a spell for summon a spell. Now Blank.
Into the mid lane, early flash from Xiaohu. Blank's got a red buff. This is yours to be careful. And the Trinket Ward spots MLXG. Woosh now losing health as well. And he gets hit by the boomerang, and Mata's not going to land it. Even if he did, I think he might have just died, as he was going in onto a full health Sivir.
Agreed, but they have the exhaust down from Wolf, and Elise is here long before Blank. They might be looking to go in again.
Cocoon not going to hit Bang, but they will get the root. The stun's going to land. The root will get dodged away. He missed the shot. Woosh should have been able to hit that. But now Mata out of health. Flashes up for Wolf. He's not going to chase for it. Mata dangerously low.
Does he go around again? He knows that there is no ward there.
At this point, if he goes around again, he's asking to die.
Yeah.
Because Blank will have been able to get close enough, and they've already used so much to try and attempt those things. I would consider all those small SKT victories. RNG was continually trying to aggress, and SKT absorbed it perfectly, giving them an advantage.
We also know that Elise versus Poppy, Echo versus Poppy has typically been an Echo-sided matchup, and look at this. Duke quite far ahead of Looper in this top lane fight. Of course, Blank's been farming as MLXG's ganks haven't meant much. And aside from the mid lane, it is SKT winning their lane matchups and ahead 300 gold.
Yeah, and even if we consider Duke's had a little bit of an off tournament because of his teleports, his laning phase and his ability to bully with the Echo has been best in tournament. I think especially when he's in this matchup, he's consistently won it by double-digit CS, and he's doing it almost double-digit at 4 minutes.
And it just makes another pressure point on the map, right? I mean, you have double TP already. Duke shoving into a Poppy, so he can't really join anything. You pick the Leona to win the lane. That's gone awry. Well, Duke blows teleport to get back in.
And he's going to look for the stun. Won't quite land on a Looper. They both get their shields, neither of which really take any damage. That is now teleport advantage for Looper. Maybe the RNG top laner can use that.
And when you're shoving in, burning teleport back into lane is really greedy. You now have to dominate that lane because Faker's done the same thing. So if you get anything done in the bottom lane right now, it's actually not Wolf and Bang's fault, at least in my opinion. You're running a double teleport comp with a pushing bottom lane, and you burn both teleports to get an advantage in your own lane.
Yeah, it is selfish play, so to speak, but we also have to remember the way that RNG won the first game is because they were able to get advantages in all 3 lanes. So at the very least, SKT's hoping to get advantages in 2, but I absolutely agree. It puts the door open again for Mata to try and make a play since they've been able to recall and reset their health bars.
And it's a refillable potion for Mata, which I really like. His recall was really poor. He had very little money, but it means that he can kind of go for these plays and just, use a recall as a way to get your health bar back up and refill that potion, and eventually pays for itself. We'll see if that goes any farther. Royal has, by the way, tied back up the gold lead. That's mostly because of Xiaohu. Look at this, 41 to 21 in minions. And this is a lane that Faker got a gank in. Xiaohu didn't.
And he teleported back to lane.
Right.
That's a minion wave pretty much that you should be up. Of course, he hasn't shopped yet, but...
Yeah, so technically he's laning against about 700 extra gold from Faker, and you would hope Faker would be able to come back unless it's really that much of an Azir favored matchup. And we know Xiaohu's Azir has been absolutely tremendous, and throughout most of the tournament, Xiaohu's had the highest CS differential at 10, and Faker had the second lowest. That didn't end up being the case in Game 2, but here we're kind of seeing a return to that as the Azir is just punishing with his ranged advantage over Faker's Fizz.
And one of the reasons that Azir actually fell out a little bit in the LPL is that mid laners like Wayless, Aggression, Wayless and Pawn actually started going Abyssal Spectre's Cow on Azir, and you just couldn't kill him. And he does his job so well of protecting an AD carry. I mean, you pick Azir as much for his utility as you do his great teamfight prowess. So they were able to create windows where he should be weak and was still okay. I mean, I'm not expecting to see it in this game, but I'm just highlighting the fact that LPL teams are used to playing Azir against Assassins.
Now RNG, they know that there's an SKT ward up. They still want to go for the play. Mob's going to flash in. He will get on to Bang. And when will the stun come out? Not yet. Goes for Wolf instead. He's got a flash away from the root. A bit slow, honestly, on the deadly flourish from Woosh. That could have been chained together.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. They did not need to try and give Wolf a window to flash. If he would have precast it, they could have chained the CC.
Looper is going to get stunned up, though. Still durable enough. And actually, Duke can't land the phase dive thanks to Steadfast Presence.
Depends what you want out of the gank. They get the flash out of Soraka. Now when level 6 hits, they didn't burn the Ignite this time around. That should technically be a free kill onto Soraka. I use quotation marks because it should be, but a lot of these should have worked as well.
If they can land the skill shots as well, because there's a chance that SKT will also be level 6. We really have to pay attention to the level breakpoints down in that lane if they attempt to go all in, because they're going to also have to be able to all in through the exhaust of Wolf. But with the heal and flash down, you'd expect it to be a kill. If we're going to try and pick a likely place for First Blood, that's the most likely place we would see First Blood in the Summoner starved bottom lane against a level 6 Leona.
And once again, just want to highlight the most likely build path for Woosh. It's going to be that BF sword into...
Trying to interrupt the recalls.
Taking some damage for it, though. Sivir gets all the way back. Mata getting some solo XP, but he's going to share the rest. Wolf will be stuck out in lane, not able to buy a Sightstone. And I don't believe Mata had backed either yet, so he will be going...
This can starve some experience.
Yeah, Sightstone money.
Yeah, we need to track this very closely. Bang is very close, so is Wolf. Woosh just hit level 6 and Mata is halfway through, so I actually don't think Mata will hit 6 before Wolf and Bang.
He shouldn't, no.
But there's a chance they could try and go all in before that even happens. The classic RNG with Jhin is they open up with the Jhin ultimate and then have the support follow in. They might be able to do that with level 6 Jhin. We'll see.
And
Unless Bang can spell shield to block it out and then flash away from Leona, that's going to be kind of the play here.
I really don't think Bang is the target. I think the Wolf has to be the target.
No, I think it's Bang trying to block for Wolf.
Yeah.
Like, that's how he lives, right? You did the quotation marks of a guaranteed kill. That's the outplay that SKT needs, is block a shot, have Soraka run.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is so telegraphed at this point. If they go all in with Leona, this is where SKT needs to teleport with their 2 solo laners and completely stuff the gank. They should be absolutely ready for this.
We'll see if they are. Jhin Trap popped away by Sivir. Her spell shield was used to regain mana, so Bang is now without that cooldown for 10 seconds.
They are already pinging out like the brush, where it needs to be warded, exactly what they want to do.
Duke has teleport, so does Faker, and Looper doesn't. So this would actually be very, very risky for Royal to go for an all-in just to get teleported on.
Yeah.
Still a close game. Nothing's broken yet. Bang again, spell shielding out Jhin Qs, which you honestly have to do in the laning phase. For a lot of the time, Sivir just won't have that spell up because of how the AD carries play against each other. Duke gets a nice heal back off of fighting Looper. That top lane, 13 minions down for Looper. This is the losing lane. This is the one that Royal can't really play around.
Yeah, and the question is going to be, how much does RNG respect SKT's ability to execute a double teleport counter gank? I mean, SKT's been able to do it consistently throughout the regular season.
Time's starting to run out one more time. I mean, if SKT can slow down this pace, we've already seen that if they get to 15 minutes even, very confident in how they can play the latter stages of these games. And this time around, RNG, with the Leona, with the Elise, haven't been able to get a snowball lead. Credit one more time to SKT.
Mata now level 6. Still no flash right now on Wolf. It's down for 30 seconds more. No heal for 15 on Bang.
MLXG got counter jungle for the dragon that Blank took, but he was unable to secure the Rift Herald. So whenever you see those objectives go down and they're not traded, it's always an advantage to the team that is able to take the
Lupa went in. Duke went in.
We're looking for the play.
Yeah,
He's going to push it behind.
Yeah. They can match with teleport. Remember, the mid lane is key.
And it's going to be Faker showing up for this one. Looper very low on health with nowhere to go. Flashes away. Gets caught up. There's first blood. Faker taking him down. Burning the summoners.
Now they need to go bottom lane. As soon as Faker was teleporting and Duke was engaged to a fight, you'd expect them to fight bottom lane.
Well, you see if they can find that one. Still looking for the dive on an MLXG. Puts the red smite on Duke. Looks for the kill. He's not going to find it. No repel up. Duke's going to live. 2 kills in the top lane. SKT leveraging that so well.
And they still haven't pulled the trigger bottom. They just back away. Bang and Wolf able to nullify any aggression, and it's SKT coming out with a huge advantage.
In fact, it's the Graves heading to the bot side as well, and RNG could be attacked down here.
Yeah, and now they've had time to recall, so they could teleport in. They have the minion to pull off the gank.
Root on a Bang, but Bang's still alive. Now the push onto Mata. The shield is on, but he's going to take plenty of damage still. Woo's going to be next up. The stun only hits Blank, and he's going to survive this one. Now Mata running out of health rapidly, flashing over the wall. Duke not going to find much more collateral damage, not going to secure the kill just yet. And Xiaohu is here to keep everyone else alive, but it's 3 kills, 0 SKT.
Yeah, SKT playing this one so nicely by the book, but Xiaohu's on some type of mission here. There's a pink ward behind him, so SKT know he's here.
1 versus 3, though, is really, really greedy.
Yeah, a lot of summoners up
Here's
for
MLXG.
SKT as
They've
well.
got the Elise. Maybe he goes for the big play. Wolf does have flash, though.
Oh, one
and
way.
His pushes Bang into the side. Elise gets a bit of damage, but Xiaohu forced to flash in, exhausted, survive his own engage. Gets nothing done.
First bad Azir ultimate I've seen from Xiaohu all tournament. Goes in and gets him the wrong way after the flash.
And it looks like the pressure is starting to get to this young Royal lineup. All of a sudden, another dive coming into the bottom lane.
He still might die.
But Faker still wants it. Happy to take Turret Dagger. Red Smite's on to buy a bit of time. Still out of health. And it's just Wolf taking it up. He was stunned, but he pops Wish and gets out. 4-0 SKT.
They're putting the pressure on, and this time, Faker's not behind. His team is not behind when he has 3 kills on Fizz, and he's been able to roam the map. Think about where he picked up these kills. 2 in the top lane, 1 in the bot lane, and Xiaohu, without having teleport, unable to match that, and because he was trying to roam down, also unable to take the mid lane turret, so all of these advantages stacking up for SKT now.
Yeah, the punish just hasn't been in the right area. Let's take another look at the mis-execution here. I mean, Mata and Woosh, they go aggressive. They at least hold the Leona ultimate, but they didn't expect 4 members to be down here. And Woosh just gets destroyed.
Yeah, SKT had such a huge win in the top lane. and RNG was a little bit slow to respond in the bottom lane, but also like we were expecting, hey, the Leona Jhin needs to go aggressive when the counter isn't there. It's not like that gives them freedom to win the 2v2 against Soraka and Sivir. They still have to land the proper combo.
They're going to land this combo. Wolf's going to get crit, and it's going to go down to Xiaohu on the wrong side of the map, looking for wards. Wolf farther than he needed to be. Good execution by RNG. Finally a kill on the board. No perfect game now for the Koreans. 1,600 the gold deficit, but keep in mind, Faker's pushing this bot lane down. It's going to grow that one back to 2.5k. But with Bang having a recall, he's got some mana, but there's a risk for the outplay. Xiaohu's ulti's up soon.
Yeah, there certainly is. Blank comes in.
Lance Cocoon into root, but look at that. They're unwilling to dive the rest of this. They had 4 versus 2 there and didn't pull the trigger, even though they have Repel.
And all of a sudden, they're not farming one of the lanes. In the bottom lane, Huge Win goes over to Faker one more time. He's just going to extend his gold advantage. And they're running out of options right now. RNG need to be able to force team fights. That's going to be impossible as both teleports come back up.
Duke level 11 looking for the play onto Looper. Up 1,000 gold, but it's in his inventory right now. Look at that, winning the trade. Looper does get the shield, but Duke stops fighting when it comes in, so up in health. Faker, there you go, grabs the blue.
Yep. Another big early game advantage here for SKT. They were able to get this in the second game and won the game in 23 minutes. This one is a little bit less explosive, but they can keep the pressure up. When their double teleport comes back again, they're going to set up this 1-3-1. They're going to try and get deep wards, and they're going to try and catch RNG trying to come back once again.
And Faker's stacking a Dark Seal, by the way. He's got 6 on that already. He's going to be ridiculously huge this game.
Yeah, he certainly is, and I guess they're running out of options because they have a good response to the Poppy. Echo, sure, in the Poppy. We'll be able to go with it, at least for the time being, but who the heck responds to Faker? I mean, you can't leave Jhin down there. You can't really siege into a Sivir. She's so hard to dive, especially with a Soraka there.
Yeah, I think Looper or Xiaohu has to be there, and I think it's mostly Looper, matching the teleport. We'll see if that ends up being the matchups here. As they recall back, they just continue to leave that Fizz lane alone. There we go. Looper, you can see in the mini-map, is running to the bot side of the map, but that gives pressure to the top for SKT. They've gotten the first dragon. Looks like they're getting Rift Herald as well, as the Chinese do not have much wave or map control, but now they've got to run away as here comes the Chinese squad. Blue team is slaying Rift. Herald Mata wants in on the Wolf. One more crit, will do 1,000,000 damage. And Wolf goes down to MLXG, but now on the backside, Woosh has to run as Duke and Bang are there. He's turning it back around, and Bang overcommits for that one. Now,
Faker's still here.
Back into Duke. Faker has joined the team. He gets stunned up and pushed away. Duke ults to dodge Mata's Eclipse damage, and now Duke trying to run over the wall. He's not gonna die. What a jump, gets over just in time. Xiaohu cannot stuff him.
Yeah, it actually looks like Xiaohu's pressing a little bit right there, but before the fight, I was going to ask whether or not RNG would start playing with an element of fear. Clearly not. They were willing to go in, maybe even a little bit too eager to try and make the play.
Whoa, look about too eager. Faker in front of a Cocoon. Shut down. 3 kills for MLXG.
And you said, are they going to play with fear? Right now, they are playing with reckless abandon because they know if they do not make the play now, they will lose the game.
And unlike in Game 2 when RNG go for the play, it works. And they continually stuff Duke.
Looper, that was so impressive. That was amazing.
Oh, this is dangerous though, MLXG.
Yeah, MLXG running out of health. The collateral damage misses, jumps to
as well.
The Rift Scuttle, trying to run, gets away from Wolf.
He's very fast.
He's real speedy. I think the assist mark is still on him.
Yeah, so it's 15 seconds he has to execute. He also has empowered recall. Can he kill?
Oh my gosh!
He got it.
MLXG solo kills him. Faker's gonna get him back, but that is where you say worth an all chat.
Kind of. Because Fizz scales a lot harder. It's worth it to get a kill. And if he didn't go for the kill, he would have actually had time to go for the execute. But he was going for the empowered recall. I think he's a god for pulling that off. But the fact that the kill goes to Faker is really dangerous because the difference in Faker's gold versus the rest of the game is ever increasing. 1,400 gold above anyone else on RNG. And that could be a giant power spike for SKT.
Yeah, certainly could. He's gone with distortion already. He understands he needs to be everywhere. This is how they use Jhin. They open up with the ulti, get the slow onto Wolf, then follow up with the CC out of Mata. You see the last crit with the Sunlight passive there. MLXG able to pick up a kill for himself, but this is the danger. You get collapsed on. Credit to RNG and Looper specifically for reacting pretty well. but that was such a risky play out of the Chinese squad.
And Bang really just chasing a kill on the side instead of just playing safely in the river, getting a little bit aggressive and definitely
Really
punished.
played.
Yeah, about a quarter of a second was the difference there between life and death, and Duke lived.
He did. SKT still up 600 gold thanks to the fact they've got one more kill on the map, and they've also stacked 2 dragons to none. So that is coming up. And if SKT keeps map control like this, well, Dragon 5 was one of the reasons that RNG won in Game 1. No reason it can't be relevant here in the third.
Do you reckon we'll see Eye of the Watcher on MLXG spawn?
Yeah, 100%. So he goes for upgraded Eye of the Watcher sight stone alert. He also generally builds Banner on his Elise as well. A little bit of utility coming out there. This time around, looks like he wants to go aggressive.
Abyssal Scepter looks like it's on the way.
Now Duke and Faker are the 2 big gold winners right now for SKT. He's got to survive them a little bit.
And you understand why he's going aggressive. I mean, 4 kills on Elise, you have to have power right now because he has so much of the gold advantage for his team. I mean, he's 1,000 up over Blank's Graves. So if you can't make an impact, that kind of falls to the wayside. And if you are MLXG, you don't make an impact through utility. We've already seen that. You make an impact by killing people.
Yeah, and the way RNG is going to have to play these team fights is by chaining CC and also by getting the proper start with a couple bullets probably landing onto Wolf, because I feel like if they don't catch Wolf, SKT will win the fight. They will kite back properly while Ricochet and Graves do damage, and then they will get a re-engaged flank as RNG chases, and SKT will win.
And I
so
don't want
it's
to
all about the chain of CC.
I don't want to remind SKT of darker times, but EDG won a tournament of catching Wolf. I mean, that was pretty much the story of last MSI.
Which tournament was that? Yeah, MSI last year?
Yeah, so potentially the same win conditions still on the board. However, I will say it is a much improved Wolf from last MSI.
Wolf making an interesting choice. I've always wondered if a player would ever make this switch in the gold generation items. He started with Spell Thieves to go for the laning phase power, which I totally get, and then he switched over now to a bunch of health regeneration, going Nomad's Medallion. I really like that. There's so much health you get back from doing this to stay alive and push, but now Xiaohu has to get away from Faker, and it's not going to be easy. Flash through the wall, but Faker's going to chase. The exhaust means nothing, and he even dodges the solar flare. But now to re-engage on the backside, a lot of damage on Wolf. One more shot. It hits Bang. Instead, he dodges one. The backline stays alive. No kills for Royal. A good dodge at the end by Wolf, and now the re-engage towards Duke. He's stunned up, but he is very durable. A 1-for-0, a great kill for Faker.
Yeah, but also 8 summoner spells burned, or 7 summoner spells burned on the side of SKT, whereas flashes still exist on Mata and Woosh for the next time we'd see a fight. So Faker makes the outplay, dodges the Leona ultimates, kills Xiaohu, but the next fight could be where RNG try and come back. This game is really close.
And you can see it's such a cute composition because they really do need to find Woosh's Jin, because one more bullet hits Wolf or one more bullet hits Bang there, and they're completely gone. However, Faker looking for a flank. They do have teleport.
Looking for the play, chasing in. He's got a red buff and a blue buff, so this is just all kinds of powerful, this Fizz from Faker. The Looper able to take the Trinket Ward away and keep his side of the map safe. And that turret went down. Nicely done in the top side. SKT pushing the gold lead to almost 3,000 in this third game.
Yeah, and a 2-level advantage on Faker now after this. Faker's now level 14. He lands the fish before the knockback, and really there's no escaping Fizz at that point. He flashes through. Xiaohu puts down his exhaust to hope to live through the end, but this is the big thing right here. They can't quite finish Wolf there, and he actually flashed after the bullet had already missed him, but that could have turned it into a 1-for-1 if that last shot from the curtain.
And I just want to go back to the nerves of the young Chinese players, because Xiaohu flashed away from his team instead of taking the Fizz into his team. One of the things that you want to do against Fizz, because a lot of his damage, at least at the earlier stages, is on his E, is if he's going to kill you, make him kill you within 3 of your team members so they can turn around and blow him up before he has his Zhonya's. Doesn't do that this time around.
And also, Fizz is on quite short cooldowns. At this point, his Urchin Strike, which is his Q, is on a 3.7, and his Playful Trickster is on a 5-second cooldown. So when he kills you outside of the team, by the time you catch up to him, he gets those spells back again, which is what we saw in that last fight.
Yep. Dodged Solar Flare from Mata, tried to stun off Faker, couldn't get anything on him. And it's up to this Fizz.
Yeah, once he gets Zhonya's Hourglass, though, it's just going to take his annoyance to a whole new level.
Yes.
Already just trying to hard carry this series, actually.
Yeah.
The Zir game was insane. Even his first Fizz game, Faker played very well.
Let's see what he can do. Into the mid lane they go. Bang getting some turret damage down. Wolf keeping the health bars up, and a quick zoning silence from Wolf keeps them all happy. Actually able to reach the ward of the sweeper, but another auto attack scan, so Blank jumps. And more wards are gone. RNG a bit dark now on this one.
And Faker, because he has this distortion, his flash is already nearly back up. Next team fight, it will be available. Xiaohu still has so long on that cooldown. And it just, once again, these short cooldowns, the ability to make repetitive play after repetitive play is definitely what Faker needs to win this game.
Yeah, and I think it's also a bit of an adjustment we've seen from SKT coming from the LCK to this MSI meta where it's a much faster paced game. So much of the setup game for SKT was just playing around long ultimate cooldowns and double teleport and people not forcing fights during the setup. But at SKT, when people are going for their layering of wards, teams are fighting and getting caught out of position here. So this adjustment by SKT to go to this Fizz pick with now distortion as well as cooldown boots is allowing them to fight more frequently and keep up with RNG.
And they really do want to fight. We actually see the full upgraded active for Wolf. I'm forgetting the name. Talisman of Ascension. Talisman of Ascension coming in for Soraka. So again, more go buttons, even if Sivers on the hunt is down.
Faker's got a Magias.
Yeah, and he
I don't
also
even care about
saw
Wolf's
Magias coming out of Sivers. Or coming out of Fizz, sorry.
Faker has one mission, and that is to crush RNG for a second game in a row. And look, with a 5-1-0 scoreline, he's definitely on his way to doing it. The danger is, you're a melee assassin. If you ever get picked before a team fight, so much of your team's advantage.
Looking for this one now. Xiaohu puts the wall down early, tries to get him. Look at that in the back line is Faker. They will turn it around. The stun lasts long enough. Yes, they take him out. Now for more. The Poppy ulti, though, means no one got hit by the Deadly Flourish. Mid laners both trade, which is actually better for the team without the Magi's Soul Stealer.
Yeah. But the Dragon still goes over to SKT. That's number 3. They continue to stack up the buff. Sure, any form of stalling right now, if you are in a Azir composition against a Fizz, is good, but you already saw the danger. The fish doesn't really do all that much. He misses his E, flashes over the wall, and one-shots the Azir.
Yeah, still really strong. Losing his stacks does cost him a fair bit of AP. He had 8 stacks right there. That goes to 0. And even though that fight was 1-for-1, the damage dealt to champions wasn't even close. RNG ended very low after that fight, which is why SKT was able to pick up that Dragon.
Yeah, even with a dead 6-2 Fizz, so this is good for SKT, honestly. Continue to control the map, and you can just watch the damage output here.
Siverall, as the fish flies over the wall, Xiaohu immediately peels around, and Faker just flies in there, but his Zhonya's wasn't completed, and they're also able to chain CC onto him. Miraculous, the Wolf almost got the heals through. If he has Zhonya's, he actually gets to live through that play because Wolf would be able to support with healing afterwards.
And I take it all back. Don't know why I doubted. He actually nailed the E on 2 people as well. That's why they were so far chunked out. So just
flashing over the Azir wall as his Trickster was coming down.
Definitely beautiful stuff. And you can see 1945 damage, roughly the health
0
bar of Xiaohu.
Xiaohu again.
Yeah, that means his ultimate didn't actually hit anyone. It was a peeling ultimate, but it never got the knockback off.
I think it was the correct use of the ultimate, but Faker was just like, anything you can do, mate, I can just do better right now. So Xiaohu coming up with a heads-up play, but Faker just proving he's better.
Yeah, but RNG's going to try and keep the pressure up here. They accidentally double pink-warded the brush, so they really want to get a pick off of that vision.
You say it's accidental. Then Blank walks in there, just tilts off the face of the planet.
Because it takes him 10 minutes to clear it.
I was going to say 7 minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes to kill all those.
Here he goes. Oh, you feel bad.
Well, he's got Soraka to help him out. Soraka actually kills wards faster than Graves.
Yeah, as of like... Well, I guess that's the rework, but you know, back in like 2012 or so, the Warriors just had a real health bar, and it took supports like 7 years to kill them. 80 carries would like 2-shot them. Mid lane still being controlled by SKT, 4,000 almost their gold lead. Static shift done on Saber means great wave from it. Now the attempt on the bang.
Down, they got the slow.
One slow. There's the second attempt. Shot's gonna land for 338.
But unless they're following up that initiation with CC, Soraka's just going to heal it right back up. They're trying to set up this siege, but they no longer have their soft initiation spell. SKT absorbing these moves from RNG very well.
And he's back to full health. Okay, not anymore, but now the attempt at the top. Oh, geez, Looper running out of health pretty fast. Faker not going to keep going for it. With his ulti down, he realized he can't keep getting the persistent damage he needs.
He actually just respected the rotation. As soon as Leona stepped out of mid lane, they realized that they didn't have that warded. Swifty boots on Leona means that...
Trigger the passive. but it ticks out. One more attack will do it. The tackle doesn't mean anything. There's the ace. SKT winning in game 3.
And great setup there by SKT. Faker, Chunk, Looper out in the bottom lane, recalled back to base, immediately teleported in. And when you have Soraka on your team, you are not nearly as punished for the start of the Baron fights unless the other team can get a clean initiation onto you, which is where in this fight, when Mata whiffs his spells, it is hugely punishing for RNG.
Yeah, it certainly is. Faker stays in Baron pit, but as you mentioned, you know, he gets a heal and he's completely fine. Overcommits here, but they're still able to get the fish and clean up MLXG. Xiaohu nearly saves the team fight over the wall, but honestly, SKT just had the jump on RNG, and it was that timing that they took their window and they were able to capitalize on it.
I'm actually surprised Looper flashed away here because I thought he was going to be able to get chased down anyway. And they need that flash from Looper if they want to catch Wolf at the start of the team fight. Because one thing about Soraka sometimes is she's even better when with something like a Kindred that can save her when she gets dove on. But Wolf is kind of all on his own if RNG can get an initiation to him. But they just haven't been able to do that, and SKT is winning fight after fight.
And with that in mind, they've got another Magi Soul Stealer. Duke has picked up his, sitting on 137 ability power with his current build here.
And you know, I actually like it because he needs to be able to find Whoosh and take him out of these fights. We've seen that he's been able to get onto him time and time again.
Yeah.
Especially when he goes down into Ultimate. So, you know, why not give him another little bit of damage to be able to utilize that?
Jin doesn't really have tools for dealing with Echo, especially a tank Echo with even more damage because of the Soul Stealer. Add that to the fact that because who's really going to be able to pay attention to the Sivir in this game when you're either trying to assassinate Wolf or just deal with the Faker assassination jumping in your team? There's just too many things for RNG to focus on.
The Mata pops the shield, absorbs a lot of punishment, still gets taken out, and the stun lands on the Xiaohu. What a great play by Duke, a double kill for Bang, and he's going to get so much more. Whoosh has got nowhere to go. Down goes his health bar, triple kill for Bang.
And Looper doesn't even burn teleport. That was just such a clean pick out of SKT. They double pink Ward River, set up the Baron bait perfectly, and then pull the trigger on a great initiation.
Yep, and this is the series tilting in SKT's favor. The way they've been able to manipulate vision right here and then use the speed differential from Sivir to force these fights has been majestic. And after their first game where they looked a little bit sloppy, again, SKT is looking more and more like the team people expected to see at MSI.
And now Royal Never Give Up has to find something to do to turn the series around and off the game for the flash for Faker. MLXG just gets deleted. Blank says, I'd rather have the kill than you. Thanks, collateral damage takes it for him. But Dragon number 4, Baron already on SKT. They are sizably ahead.
Baron buff, 4 Dragons, and 2 14-stack Soul Stealers.
And this is what we're talking about, you know, straight away. Mata thinks he's safe to clear that ward. He isn't. He gets burst down before he even uses a spell. Duke perfectly clips Xiaohu on the edge of that. Whoosh, you don't have flash. You're down next. And they don't chase. They just straight away rotate back to the Baron, make the high percentage play.
At this point, it's desperation for RNG. Xiaohu would try and go for a miracle initiation, but he doesn't even have his Zoni's Hourglass completed.
One thing I will say, no one on the team of SKT has any range, and they haven't yet built up the Banner of Command. So we have seen it time and time again, out of SKT, out of CLG, there is still a window where RNG can play around turrets and, you know, just concede the next 10 minutes and try and scale into the 6-item stage of the game. It looks like it's a long way out, but we've seen stranger things.
But I also think SKT is incredibly well set up for a 1-3-1 to negate their range disadvantage, because Xiaohu can only be in one place at once, and Whoosh and Looper's wave clear is not good against Baron minions. So I think SKT is going to set up the 1-3-1 and just try and brute force their way into the base.
And you see it right there. Mid lane already went down. Duke just got the top lane tier 2, and Faker's in the bot lane to look for that 3rd one, or the 6th one, depending on how you're counting in this one. Baron buff still on for a minute, and they've already got that Dragon 4 we talked about, so they're also pretty resilient to turret damage as champions. Faker's down there, and there's the turret falling. 3 2-2 turrets taken within 30 seconds of each other.
And one more time, who do you send to Faker's lane? You have to send Poppy. All of a sudden, Duke, he can probably take out either Xiaohu or Whoosh as well. It's just no good response.
You can't send Xiaohu because he needs to clear the midway, but they can try it all in.
On to Bang, and they will land that. Collateral damage to get Blank out of this one. A bit of wave clear from the Jin ulti. and they bought a bit of time. Looper sees Duke, they fight back and forth, but Faker is inside the base with the Baron buff, with the blue buff, now running away. He got slowed though, he got rooted, and Faker overextended. He gets deleted, 2 kills picked up for Royal.
And RNG pull the trigger as they have done all tournament long and punish the over-aggression. All 3 waves, not on the turrets at the same time, so Mata just goes and catches out 2 members.
Yep, Bang unable to flash during that CC chain. And then I do have to make a callback to the Rylais with the Ludens, because MLXG got the slow from the Ludens, which allowed them to catch up to Faker. Maybe they would have had some other spells, but that was a cool little interaction. SKT still in huge control, but RNG making some big desperation plays.
And 30 seconds of no Faker is 30 seconds of most of SKT's gold not being here. So mid lane's going to go down. How much more can they grab? It's still 10,000 their deficit, but they have 20 seconds and a new minion wave to work with. Azir turret up on the flank. Ulti almost back up for Leona. If SKT defends this improperly, they're going to try though right now. Duke is in the front line. Whoosh low on health, and he's going to get popped. He's deleted. The Ricochet doing so much. Mata forced to run. Duke takes him down. Solar Flare hits nothing. It's a triple kill in a 4 versus 5. Make that so many going down. Looper, the last one alive. They don't care about the Azir.
Beautiful
the blank flash comes in. That's going to be Looper losing more health. He finds his stun, but he's not going to find the damage. And here comes Faker teleporting into the bot lane to keep this one going forward. Looper just running for dear life. Yeah, he's buying time, but his teammates are 25 seconds away from respawning, and they're inside the base already. SKT. This chase doesn't mean much because Faker and Bang are inside the base, taking it down. Bottom inhibitor is dead. Nexus turret's here as Duke has also joined the squad. Bang is there. The ace finally comes through, and this should be the end of this one. SK Telecom T1 from Korea are 1 game away from avenging their loss to China from last year's MSI.
Yeah, and that game was just Faker at the start getting the kills rolling, and then that enabling everyone else on SKT to succeed. Those fights had everyone honed in on Faker, which allowed the Soul Stealer Echo and the fully offensive early build Sivir to wreak havoc in team fights, and RNG gets completely shut down.
And that's who I want to talk about, Duke. The difference between game 1, 2, and 3, Duke has got consistently better throughout this series. Finishes the game 6-0 and 8, finally stepping up as that secondary threat that SKT needs. And you could just see, Whoosh was never comfortable in the team fights because Echo always found him.
Yeah, it was really good play, honestly. The game 1 strategy from Royal Never Give Up, they couldn't replicate that anymore. The Nidalee got banned away. Even if they wanted to play that Trundle into Poppy matchup or Ryze into Poppy, well, that same early pressure wasn't there. In game 3, they pull out the Elise, try for that pressure again. They even got the mid lane win, but their Poppy Echo matchup wasn't good enough. And so it was Duke's turn to take over, win the lane, start crushing games.
Yeah, SKT definitely adapting very well to the best of 5 format. I think a lot of that just has to do with Faker's play. His ability to win both sides of this Azir matchup is putting RNG in a very difficult bind, but that's not to say that they still can't make substantial adjustments heading into the elimination games, because now next game wins for SKT and they get 2 chances. So RNG, if they're going to make a change, they have to make it now, since they've lost twice in a row with similar strategies.
And I think it does have to be where the focus on the map. Stop trying to pinch top lane. I mean, stop going all in aggressive. Like, you need to get back into Faker's lane. That's how they started this beautiful role that RNG went on, was actually by getting MLXG into the mid lane time and time again during the group stage and snowballing Xiaohu. Faker has just proven that after 4 days rest has come back better than ever. Yeah. Xiaohu needs some help.
And it's not like he was magical. He didn't win the laning phase. He was down actually half CS, but his roams were so good. The teamwork from SKT was amazing. So a beautiful game 3 win by them. 2-1 the lead in the series. 1 more sends it home for them into the finals. But for now, let's check in with Dash at the analyst desk.
Very much, gentlemen. SKT moving to 2-1 on the series. They're going to be very happy with that. And I got to say that all in all, they're looking a lot cleaner in their 2 more recent wins versus that initial game of the series.
Yeah, definitely so. And I think we're well on our way for matching the accurate 3-1 prediction of SKT1 taking the series.
That's why I didn't gloat after the first game, because I knew this was coming.
You knew they'd pick up 1 game. All right, well, let's talk through it a little bit. Again, we see the Soraka coming through and now playing a very pivotal role. As the casters both just mentioned, Faker playing well on both sides of the Azir matchup now.
Well, I do want to jump on this mid lane matchup because Fizz doesn't beat Azir in lane, and Faker didn't beat Xiaohu in lane. what ends up going wrong for RNG is the fact they want to snowball bot lane with this Leona pick, obviously into the Soraka, and have the Elise coming down early gank, and then win that lane due to early ganking, and then focus mid lane with Elise and Azir to shut down a Fizz. And that actually makes a lot of sense. And you just sacrifice top lane.
Except that winning that lane is a lot harder than most people think, right?
Yes.
Everyone's just like, oh yeah, Soraka, her weakness,
just stun her.
Gank her, just burn her,
Easy.
ignite, we're fine now, right?
Yeah, Soraka Sivir is against this Leona Jhin matchup is actually very fascinating because there's so many layers to it. Because if you go in as Leona early, you have to press stun early because then otherwise you risk getting into the silence field and then you can no longer proc it. With spell shield, generally what you want to do against the Sivir is you want to go in, fake the auto, she spell shields, then walk next to her. But then with silence field, that's another factor you have to factor in. So we saw Mala try and dance around it. They went a little ham level 1-2. They didn't respect the level 2
hard,
trades,
honestly.
the out sustain, but they had some winner's opportunity. And at the same time, though, Wolf and Bang, I mean, these guys really played not to lose. They never played to win this lane. They could have won this lane by like 20 CS if they like put the foot on the pedal, but they always just avoid losing.
Yeah, and that tacks on really well with Fishio's point. The SKT, as we said before, they're not playing to win these lanes, right? They're playing to win the team fights. Both of those bottom lanes bought a lot of pick potential to the mid game, right? We saw the long range initiation from Jhin, combo that into the stun. But the same thing with the Sivir, what SKT are doing multiple times, sitting on a pink ward, everybody's waiting there. You have this Assassin Fizz ready to run in. They pop the Sivir ultimate and immediately get a pick for themselves as well.
Yeah.
And that mid game, the Fizz not only in other lanes, but also picking people off.
Let's get the replay because it actually shows exactly where it goes wrong for RNG. Now, this is what SKT have changed and does really well now, is they react a lot. So it's actually a gank that's being set up. You can see the Elise on your minimap moving to top lane. And because there's a double teleport on the side of SKT, they can react with Faker coming in. I don't think you should ever gank this top lane as RNG. This lane is dead for you. Let the poppy loose. Don't try and gank it because you cannot react to this TP. It becomes a 2v2, Faker gets a kill. And what then ends up happening is now the jungler is shown on top side. That means you can't actually play aggressive on bottom side now, and they do it anyway.
And the other thing is, after that, sticks around at the minions. They just saw you use your repel. Yeah. You know this dive is going to come.
That's the micro mistake. This is the macro mistake.
The macro mistake here, and they don't use information very well. RNG sometimes fail to adapt with what information is on the map. When it comes to the bigger map plays, sending your jungler top is the mistake first already, not trying to set it up for a bot gank. We even saw at level 1. They went for a trade where they went super ham, and then 30 seconds later, the Elise shows up, and then it's like, why didn't you guys synchronize this? Maybe use your CC together, because then you can get through spell, shield, silence, and a flash, and still generate a kill. And all Leona Jhin need is 1 or 2 kills to start snowballing, because suddenly that sustain from Soraka isn't enough to beat your all-in, regardless of when you choose to go.
And those kills need to happen before Fizz can TP in and have an impact in the bottom lane. So when you're all in level 2 and use your offensive summoner, then your jungler walks in at level 3, you don't have the same kill pressure suddenly anymore. It's very uncoordinated, and once that bot lane fails to get rolling, suddenly you can't really sit and camp the mid lane either because you're not winning the bot lane anymore, and you will always lose top. And then they just kind of panic and be like, all right, let's try and gank top then. And that's the worst you can do, because then the TP comes in, you snowball there, bot lane can't play aggressive, they get dove, and then the game is basically over.
Yeah, so SKT out to a very early lead in terms of kills, but we did see about 5 minutes later into the game, RNG, they're going to pick up a little bit more, and this was kind of the
equalizer turning point. The things that RNG are good at, they are incredibly good at, and that is looking for picks or aggression in the mid game. We also have a replay of that. They managed to find picks here every time. I really like this combo where you open with Jhin ulti. It's a good adaptation because there is an execute to that Jhin ulti, so generally you want to use it last. But here they just layer the CC and they force SKT to kind of overcommit too, because they're already winning the fight right now, and this is a good turning point for RNG.
Not really sure what Bang was doing in the end. Like, I have no mana, boys. I know my Echo could probably finish the Jhin, but ends up over-chasing, and Fake also missed, of course,
This is huge, though, the Azir miss here.
This is another point about the individual play, though. Xiao had a couple of those instances where his Azir, he did not look comfortable, or, whatever the reason. There were a lot of misplays.
Also, the fact that he goes for the first pick Azir when the LeBlanc was available, right? So he could have just went for the counter pick too. Like, I think he seems no longer have confidence in the counter matchup, because usually he would just give over the Azir, pick the LeBlanc if they take
Sure.
it, and then just wreck him in lane.
How much of that, though, is the fact that now SKT is showing up to these team fights and RNG is saying we need something that's a little bit more secure from a champion perspective in the team fights as opposed to looking for just that single carry?
I mean, so you have to do both parts, right? You can draft for that style, and then they have to also set up for that style. Multiple times, they're there. They don't have the front line in a very similar area where they were trying to do one of those team fights, and story could be completely different, but not setting up the pink wards in advance. Trying to get everybody there ready for the fight.
All right, well, real quickly before we go to break, I want to take a look at the fight that kind of put the nail in the coffin for RNG. SKT picking up 5 kills, 4-2, plus Baron off the back end of it.
It was close, but it's Mata here just going in and honestly, whiffing everything.
Yeah, as soon as you're done this, you're kind of useless now as a Leona, obviously missing everything, but this is the fight you talked about, Kobe, where Poppy isn't there in the front line, and it's a fun game to play Echo when not only do you see Azir, and Echo is really good into Azir because flanks are very strong against against Azir, you also see a Jhin. And like, oh, that is gold. And when you have so much mobility and CC versus an AD carry who can't escape, and your team is winning early on, so obviously Duke ends up having a monster game because he basically got spoon-fed everything.
Well, yeah, of course, Duke is finally happy that he doesn't have to be the one taking
the 2 games.
taking this matchup on the other foot there, right? He's finally able to get actually a good matchup that he should be winning, and he does.
Yeah.
Maybe could have won a little bit harder in the 1v1, but he definitely did his job.
Yeah, we saw how the lack of frontline really influenced that fight, though. Because yes, Mata whiffs a little bit, but if there's a Poppy there at least with Steadfast present, maybe they can cancel a Fizzq, any dashes going in, maybe just slow them down a little bit. But he arrived when the fight was already over, and then Poppy is pretty much useless.
All in all, SKT moving to 2-1. They're going to have brought this series to match point for themselves. We'll be right back to see if RNG can extend this series one more game. We'll be right back here in Shanghai in just a moment. We'll see you soon.
I was going to say also about the...
Welcome back to Shanghai's Oriental Sports Center, where Royal Never Give Up is on the ropes and needs a win to stay in the fight for the MSI Finals. So given the fact that they're on the back foot, they need to win 2 games in a row here. But they